Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. There will be strong language and adult themes. So, sorry I screwed up with the time again, people. I actually had set an alarm and it didn't go off. I don't know why.
It happens. I do that all the time. Like I was saying earlier, I think our ears learn the frequency and eventually tune it out.
Yeah, that's probably the case.
Especially once you finally, because I don't sleep as well, and so when I finally achieve sleep, I'm like deep in sleep because my body is, I've basically passed out.
Yeah, without some heavy drugs, I can't reach that. And they won't give me anything that'll do it.
Hey Sarah, hey Stool, you guys,
So
you
that's
guys.
part of my problem. I'm pretty much chronically sleep deprived.
That's awful. That's yeah. I I get really hypoglycemic after about 60 hours, so I couldn't imagine anything past like 2 days. I get
Well,
real weird.
it's the problem is I sleep in short cycles. When I lay down at night, I will go through a complete sleep cycle in less than an hour, and then I will
Oh,
lay there waiting to fall asleep again.
oh, that's
So
torture.
it's like, I don't get into the deeper stages of sleep. I hardly ever get into the REM sleep. I hardly ever get to the point of dreaming.
Oh, that's awful. How's it going, Doc?
Because generally I'm only asleep for 20, 30 minutes at a time.
Ah,
Just waking up myself.
I literally would wake up
Hey Jeff.
angry because I sometimes I'll wake up every hour on the hour, and it's torturous to me.
Yep, that happens to me too. I never get to sleep straight on through.
Yep. And in the side chat, I see we got Sarah. Oh, and Stool showing up. How you doing, Stool? Haven't seen you around too much.
You should hop in, you pervert. So what's the was there a theme tonight?
Yeah, it's National Clam Chowder Day.
All right, so I'm not one ever short of a story. So here you go. I love clam chowder so much that my ex-wife on our honeymoon, we drove up the West Coast and we went to San Francisco and had their famous red chowder in a bowl on the wharf. If you're ever on the West Coast, go to San Francisco. They have some of the best clam chowder. And
Groovy.
I've been around and I've been to Maine
Yeah.
too. And nothing's better than Maine chowder, but like San Francisco's up there.
Yeah, clam chowder is a personal favorite for me too, but I can't get any decent stuff anymore. I remember, one of my favorite places used to be the Skipper's seafood restaurants. Yeah, they
Oh
closed
yeah.
down
Oh,
before 2000. Back in the early 90s, I think they closed up.
we had
But
we had those
it,
there.
it wasn't. They called it quick serve. That basically it was fast food seafood, but it was good stuff and it was all you could eat.
I love imitation crab meat, like Alaskan polyp, like seafood salad. I'm
Yep.
addicted to that stuff. I
Oh yeah, I
still
love that stuff too.
so I'm not picky at all. Like I'll order that stuff in Subway. As long as it's not a dodgy Subway.
Oh, I love that stuff too. I like it, just straight out of the package, just
Mhm.
dipping it in cocktail sauce.
Oh yeah. I guess seafood was cheaper when I was younger, and so I ate like I'm saying when I was a child. So growing up, we ate a lot of seafood. I don't know if it's my proximity to the West Coast, but are clams expensive now? Mussels?
Well, here any kind of seafood's kind of pricey, but we're in the middle of the continent, so
because I still eat like I can't believe I'm confessing this. I still eat Gordon's fish sticks.
Hey, kitty. Well,
Hey,
even the chunky clam chowder in the can years ago used to be pretty decent, but over the years they've been like thinning it out and just making it cheaper and cheaper. It's just no good anymore.
The best clam chowder is Snow's clam chowder. I will die on that hill.
Snows? I don't think I've seen that brand.
You can buy it in some grocery stores, but it's very prominent up in New England. And like New England, Massachusetts, we know our clam chowder. The chowder.
I've been all the way
Yep.
to Gouldsbury, Maine. I had an ex-girlfriend that was from there, and I thought they were joking until I actually went there and had lobster, and it's just better up there. And I'm like I was saying, 5 minutes ago I was standing for San Francisco, but it is better up there. But
Well,
like I said,
for any food, being fresh makes a difference, which is the problem here that you can hardly get any seafood that hasn't been frozen.
But no, Snow's clam chowder, it comes in a can. And it is the best canned clam chowder. Like when I found that the Publix near me actually carried it, I was super stoked. Because I used to have my cousin smuggle me some whenever she'd come down from Massachusetts. I'd be like, bring me some polar soda and some Snow's clam chowder.
I was like that about a specific cheese here in Los Angeles. It's called queso seco, which literally just means dry cheese, but they wouldn't sell it in the suburbs. So I would have to drive to LA, and then we got a Vallarta, which is it's a chain, but I guess it's a West Coast supermarket, and they sell authentic Hispanic food. And 40 pounds later, I'm satisfied.
I
Yeah.
was like a week ago years old when or it was more like 2 weeks that I went to IKEA for the first time and found out we actually have Trader Joe's here. I did not know we had a Trader Joe's. Like, so now I need to go there.
That's Trader Joe's that's awesome. That's super West Coast. We have Trader Joe's everywhere here.
I've never been in a Trader Joe's, but we do have them in the area.
Oh, that's funny. There's two of them in my town. They sell like I don't know. On every New Year's, I go to Trader Joe's and buy a bunch of like bougie finger food. It's a semi bougie place. Damn it! Now
But
I'm craving chowder.
for the 6 years I lived in New York, I was not able to get Western salad dressing. I love the stuff. Nobody there even knew what it was. And I even looked it up on the company's website, and that they had listed on the website all the grocery stores that carried it. Not a single one in the state of New York. Until 3 months before I moved out. 3 months before I moved away, some of the grocery stores finally started carrying it. And it's like, before that, I had to have people sending me bottles of it in the mail.
Doc, are there chains where you live where it's only like in your area? Like, for example, I thought everybody had it In-N-Out. Then I realized it was like a West Coast thing,
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Can't think of anything exclusive to my town, but my hometown still has, or at least they got it again at some point, a borderline pizza that was a small chain from way back. I don't think it's even around anymore. But the dude like that owns it, like worked there when he was in high school, and I like remember seeing him there when I was a kid. And like and I don't know, several years ago I went with my brother and some friends back there, and I found that dude was the current owner. He had gone off to college and came back and bought the place and maintains the name and the old style they used to make the pizza in back then, and it's actually kind of cool. So
That's awesome.
That is pretty cool.
so that seems particular to my hometown anyway. And I don't think there's any borderline pizza around anymore. It used to be a chain, but I think they died out years ago. So
Philip, how's it going, Nacha? How's it going, Jyuni? Philip, Lorik.
Nacha.
We have a Five Guy. We do in California. We have a Five Guys.
Hey, Nacha.
They're everywhere.
Five
here.
Guys is the best. I just had Five Guys. Literally the day I went to, or like the same weekend that I went to IKEA, we went to Five Guys. We ate outside because, we're still in the middle of a panini. So, not going to push my luck too much.
So
even though we're all vaccinated.
I just can't say the sentence, I've had Five Guys.
I mean, if we're doing a running tally of body count, I'm at more than 5. So...
I say that to insult people. Like,
although,
a woman will say something, and I'll be like, "I've been with more dudes than you have. Stop talking."
Although, while I've never fucked a 10, one night I fucked 5 twos. That ought to count for something.
Absolutely does.
Yeah, I'm not feeling competitive tonight, so I'm just
Facts aren't, no brag, just facts, as the Cowboys say.
Yeah,
and that was a George Carlin joke.
More than I already have.
That was a George Carlin joke. I have to give credit where credit's due. So.
May the man rest in peace.
Yes.
He was fucking brilliant.
Oh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Damn it, because it was good. Short-term memory loss.
I spent the last 6 hours watching a live stream talking about breaking news with the whole Ukraine shit show.
Oof.
Yeah. Fucking on the cusp of World War III, and then you got people arguing over internet drama, and I'm just like, priorities.
Like I said this before we started, I was already over it. Same thing. Everything was kind of annoying today. Someone would be bitching about something, and there's people who live like us who lost their home yesterday, who had to leave, who have become refugees and will never go back. And they were living lives like you and I are right now.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that.
No, there is no glory to be had in war. War is nothing but suffering and anguish and misery.
Yeah. I don't understand, in this day and age, how this can happen. That, somebody can just go and invade another country. I mean...
A while ago in my Facebook days, I posted a meme of a meteor hitting Earth, and it was this is how Earth's going to end. And it was a meteor and a bunch of people holding up phones. And I felt like that last night when people were live streaming planes going over their houses. Shows how helpless you are against a jet fighter.
At that point, they're trying to get the word out, because Russian state media is going to be trying to do damage control and put out propaganda. So they're literally trying to, make sure that it's known what's actually happening and how much, shit is really hitting the fan over there.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I didn't really think that there's any point in us discussing it now because it's pretty much everyone else has been covering it to death already.
Sorry.
So, oh no, that's fine. I'm, not opposed to if you have something to say. I just didn't think there's much less that we can add at this point.
And the one thing I haven't done on a live stream is cry. That's the last thing on the checklist.
The one good thing,
I'm trying not to cry.
The one good thing is, Russia's gonna be fucked. When it comes down to it, unless it ends up actually being World War III, taking over a country is not that hard. Occupying a country is very hard, and we have the best military on earth, and we were going up against people who had nowhere near our level of technology in Afghanistan, and look how that went.
Well,
Yeah,
you
So,
know,
well,
like, Putin wants a blitzkrieg type thing, shock and awe tactics, because a war of attrition, he will lose.
it's one of
He
those
Yeah.
cliche
absolutely
things,
will
though.
lose.
It's one of those like who has lost a guerrilla war? Name a country, and I'll tell you how they didn't lose a guerrilla war. You could start with us, the Vietnamese, you know, the Russians 3 different times, the Afghanis like
yeah.
since the Roman time, Roman
The
times,
thing I find really discouraging about this, though, is that our country has become so politically divided that most of the Russians are supporting, or most of the Republicans are actually supporting Putin.
I had
Yeah,
to
it's sick.
I
You
had
know,
it on
and
Twitter.
it's like they're so desperate to see Biden fail that even though their comeback for everything is that's communism, they're willing to support an actual communist dictator.
I had to turn
What the
Twitter off
fuck,
today
people?
for that very
Yeah.
reason. I had to turn Twitter off for that very reason. This morning I was just like, what the fuck? Because it was just, and people are exposing these people, but
And honestly, though, I mean, it's that whole horseshoe theory. You advocate so hard against something that you end up circling back around to actually supporting it. And there are some tankies, like there's some leftists that very much are doing the same thing. They're so against US imperialism, which, again, I am against US imperialism. Fuck that noise. However, they're like running fucking roughshod over facts and running defense for Putin and Russia's actions right
mhm.
now because they're against American imperialism. Is like these are not the same thing. They're both equally bad, but they're not the same, and
Yeah,
you can say, hey, I disagree with what America's doing without actually, condoning or making excuses for what Russia is doing.
I have a theory of you still have to live here. Like if I had the options, I would go live on the moon and you guys can all go fight it out. But I still have to live here with these people.
I
So
think the only way we're going to get rid of like expand, war and imperialism like on this scale is if we go to a truly like global economy. Yes, we have a global economy now, but there's still like different pockets of it. I'm talking about a more centralized thing because we have something like NATO. It's like attack one, attack all. That could end really, really badly since not everybody's in NATO. But if we actually had kind of like a NATO, but for everybody, that's one level. But then you also have where everybody's money is dependent on everybody else's money doing well. Like right now, the Russian ruble is like lower than it's ever been. I think it's had the lowest, the biggest plummet of any currency ever. And their economy is completely going to be devastated by this. They've been cut off from world banks. They've been cut off from trading in US dollars and like a dozen other like main currencies used in world trade. Key imports are being cut off from them. Literally, they are getting sanctioned out the wazoo, and it's going to keep escalating the more Putin keeps pushing for this, which is again why he wanted the shock and awe type thing, so he could go break the morale, take over quickly, and then say, hey, 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 I'm done, and then try to like ease back a little bit, make it seem like, he was just doing this one little area, even though he's not because he's gone after Kyiv, but
so really quick, back to your one world order thing. Can we call it the Federation?
I'm okay with that. Like I would much rather us be working towards don't get me wrong, the Federation of Planets like had its issues. Like the Star Trek Federation had its issues. It was run by humans and others that have like similar capriciousness and flaws of humans.
If we were pro
However,
bipedal.
however, I would rather go towards a system like that, warts and all, than towards, the every man for himself, Mad Max, Water Wars type of future.
Yeah.
'Cause that's really what it comes down to. Like,
That's what it's coming
yeah,
down to right now.
I have to ask, what is the Looking Glass plane?
Oh, it's probably something that could flatten a country, start WW3. Probably has nukes on it.
Yeah.
yeah, speaking of that stool, didn't Boris Johnson say like the UK government wasn't going to be issuing visas to Ukrainians? Like that's fucked. Like,
Well,
Europe
and
should be getting those people out of there if they want to leave.
UK sold weapons to both sides.
Of course they did.
Both sides. And
I mean, honestly, we
Okay.
probably did too.
no, we did too. Great video. Kate Smurthway, go check her out. It's a great video on YouTube. We funded it, and so did the UK. Because we
That's
saw
terrifying, sweet. That's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, Skits, we did start with talking about clam chowder, and then we kind of wandered
I
off.
know. I tried.
It's my fault. It's my fault.
It's bad.
It's my fault. I spent 6 hours watching this like nonstop. So
See, that's
blame
why
me.
It lasted a good 5 minutes of the clam chowder, didn't it?
And I showed pictures of the best clam chowder coming from a New England, born person.
I love seafood. It's something I grew up eating. I don't know if it's because I grew up on the West Coast. Big seafood fan.
Also, Manhattan style clam chowder is fucking disgusting. Tomatoes don't belong in clam chowder. I will die on this hill.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that.
Well,
Yeah, the
oh,
classic
man.
New England style.
If you want to really start fights, New Yorkers adopt everything and ruin it.
I want to agree.
I'm
that
kidding.
one of my partners is from New York. So
Now I'm New York. Usually I'm South bashing. Tonight I'm New York. I'm not a fan of New York because I'm a West Coast sports fan.
I was not a fan of New York. I was only there for one person.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. Like, LA is a ton of hype. Don't move here. And New York is the same way.
Yeah, well, and I was even, in upstate New York. I was in the center of the state. I could not have lived in New York City. I couldn't have handled it.
Neither could I. Went there and I was like, this is just like LA, but compact on an island, which is even scarier.
I mean, it seems like fucking if you include all the suburbs of LA, like it is the size of the entirety of the state of New York.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't imagine being locked in with those people.
Well,
I guess I'm only fond of New York because it's the home of Spider-Man.
I love Peter
Cheers.
Parker. Could not go wrong. That reminds me of the good old days when Isaiah was young and impressionable, and we'd hang out and watch Disney and all those awesome shows for hours and hours.
DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Tailspin.
actually, I've been rewatching those because Sloth Girl got Disney Plus, so was rewatching the classic DuckTales and Darkwing Duck, and checked out the DuckTales reboot, which I was surprised. I didn't, basically all the reboots I think have been shit, and they shouldn't have done it. The DuckTales reboot is actually decent.
David
Yeah,
Tennant.
no, I think it's really good. And David Tennant, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and the one thing I really like about it is that for the first time they finally gave Huey, Dewey, and Louie separate personalities.
yeah, instead of just being red, blue, green.
Yeah, well, it was just the three of them that would, they'd share one sentence between all three of them, literally. It's like, yeah, that may have been a cute gimmick to carry something for a 15-minute cartoon, but, it didn't really work for an ongoing series.
They didn't have much to say in the 80s. It was a different time. Let's be real. In the Ninja Turtle days, Mikey said cowabunga and tubular and spectacular. And in the new versions, Isaiah used to watch like he was a bit of an orator. They had things to say.
Mm-hmm.
Times change.
That's weird. That's just weird. Like Donatello, Michelangelo, fuck even Raphael, and Leonardo definitely all have things to say. Or not Michelangelo. Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael, all having things to say, in varying degrees of nerdy and leadery and fucking angry. But yeah, Michelangelo not being weird surfer dude, just with a pizza.
I can't believe I'm about to stand for the Ninja Turtles, but there was this one version that Isaiah used to watch where they were on a spaceship and they started with everything exploding. and that's how the series started. And
I
like they had to go back in time, and it was actually really awesome. And I bought the DVD at Walmart, and I opened it up, and the DVD wasn't in there.
oh
Yeah, so
Yeah.
don't shop in LA.
Can I give you a weird bit of trivia while we're talking about Ninja Turtles?
Heck yeah.
The original Doc Fearsome I ever created was way back when I was in high school, a million years ago. It was with a pen and paper role playing game called Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness.
I remember that game. Never actually
Well,
played it, but I remember seeing it.
the original Doc Fearsome was a mutant from that game.
Is that from the Nintendo game?
No, it's a pen and paper game.
Oh, okay.
It's if you've ever heard of a game of the Palladium role playing system, from that comes there was a Robotech they had licensed for a while, so it was part of their system. They also did Riffs. If you've ever heard of something called Riffs, Riffs is like a post-apocalyptic future game where a bunch of where like the world becomes crisscross with magic ley lines, psychic ley lines that you can see at night, like they glow at night. And when the ley lines cross, they create nexus points that can open up a rift to other dimensions. So the Earth becomes a interdimensional hotspot of monsters and aliens and fantasy creatures.
Oh, that's awesome.
Um,
I was obsessed with Robotech, and I
Yeah.
was so happy when they re-released it on Netflix.
I played in a Palladium campaign once. I've also done Aberrant and Pathfinder's my favorite. D&D 3.5. I did like a couple sessions of 4th edition. I didn't like it very much. I haven't played 5th edition yet. And I did like 1 or 2 sessions in Vampire the Masquerade.
I used to play lots of Vampire.
If you
Yeah,
hadn't
again,
noticed,
I see the
my
Palladium
aesthetic.
games when I go to the gaming conventions, but I don't think I've actually played any of them.
But the
Yeah.
character that I was playing in Palladium, it was kind of like a homebrew character, like that was mishmashed from a couple of different things. Like there was the main template, but then there were a few other things added into it. And essentially, my character was kind of like a Time Lord, basically bouncing around and through time and space to essentially fix issues that would arise. And on the mission right before the one that was in the campaign, I was stopping these cultists from opening this rift and letting in like a lesser old one or something along those lines. And I thought I did a good job because I stopped them, but that lesser old one, a pillar of tentacles and eyeballs, kind of got its hooks into my mind. My character actually had split personality. So there was the evil side of me, which was basically trying to do the opposite of what my good side was trying to do. So I'm trying to help the party, whereas the evil side is trying to hinder the party and prevent the chosen one in our group from completing his destiny. And so the DM would just, every now and again roll percentile dice to see which personality would take over. The evil one knew of the good one, but the good one did not know of the evil one. That was a fun character to play.
Interesting.
Playing like essentially true neutral, or maybe true neutral to neutral good-ish, because I'm not as familiar with the alignment in Palladium as I am with the alignment in like D&D. So
It's
like
very different, yeah.
it is very different.
Hold on.
So I'm just equating it to like D&D terms. I was playing a borderline, between true neutral and neutral good character, where and that was my good side. And then the other side would have been just like chaotic evil.
Yeah.
Yes, evil kitty in the bosoms of doom.
Hey, Corpus.
Hello there.
Sorry I'd have my camera on, but I'm doing homework and I just got out of the shower.
Oh, whatever suits you.
Plus, there's a cat around here somewhere that's mad at me because she got spayed.
Yes, I have lap full of cat.
And here I have to wait for the pandemic to be over to essentially have the same surgery.
Well, that's because we live in a place that doesn't care about people.
This
Not
is
we.
true.
I
mean,
not we.
I've already been sterilized, but I need my uterus removed. So because of health complications. So yeah, I have to essentially wait for the pandemic to end because it's not a life-threatening thing. It's not like I have cervical cancer or anything. It's literally just complications from the type of surgery that was done on me to sterilize me after my son was born, along with a failed endometrial ablation. So I just suffer from debilitating pain, feeling like Freddy Krueger shredding my uterus every couple of weeks.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's not life-threatening, so.
Do you know what's funny? If you lived in Mexico, they would have had it out by now.
If I lived pretty much anywhere else in the developed world, I would have had it out by now.
I was shocked when I lived in Mexico how readily available my medicine was. Like, I just walk into a pharmacy and buy it responsibly, buy it irresponsibly if I felt like it,
I had two
amazing.
things against me. One, like there's a pandemic going on, and two, up until this past December, I was under the age of 35, and they are much less likely to, go through with a hysterectomy, even if there's a medical need for it, unless it's life-threatening if you are under 35, even if you've already been sterilized.
Wow.
Yeah, my
Crazy.
fiance went through the same thing. That she was having chronic pain, and they finally figured out it was fibroids on her uterus. And that even after she had been in constant pain for 3 years, they were still reluctant to do the surgery.
Yeah. Or like my sister, she has no kids, wants no kids. She's 29 years old. And I mean, this is my baby sister, but she's 29 years old, no kids, wants no kids, and they're pretty sure she has PCOS, which is really painful, like can cause like debilitating issues. And one of the main things that they can do that'll guarantee pretty much to fix it is a hysterectomy, but she can't find a doctor willing to take her uterus out because she is under 35. So she has 6 more years of suffering.
Jesus.
Yep.
That is just stupid.
Yep. And
What
it's,
is-
well, what if you change your mind? What if you want kids? What does your husband think? Is he okay with this? I'm sorry, it's not his fucking decision.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. That's
What
the
is
other part of it, that a lot of doctors still, want to get the husband's or even the boyfriend's approval before doing that or doing a sterilization. And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why does anyone else have any say in this?
They, in their mind, it's about, keeping the species going. In that weird Christian, you have to be like rabbits and have 15 children way.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people around that can have kids.
Yeah.
And what is PCOS?
I believe it stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. But it's a polycystic condition.
Yeah, and it's still the, the society pressure on women, that everyone is supposed to have kids. The idea that you decided not to have kids is just something so foreign.
Oh, I'm an asshole because whenever, somebody like will ask me, oh, when are you going to have another child? I will dead ass look them in the eye and say, I can't. The first one nearly killed me. And they get like all uncomfortable. But fuck you. That's not a question to ask somebody. It's none of your fucking business.
People get really weirdly familiar and ask people strange questions like that. I'll never understand it.
When are you going to have kids? When are you going to have more kids? Well, what if you can't? Huh? Did you think about that? It could be a really traumatic question, you nosy cunt.
Exactly. I would never walk up to somebody and be that presumptuous. Ever.
I mean, like, fuck.
I would.
At least someone I don't know.
I would, because I have no filter. Oh, I do have a filter. That's not quite true. I do have a filter, but it's more.
If I was ever in that situation, my impulse is to just suddenly break out crying from the question. just to make the other person feel shitty about it.
Yeah, but not everybody can cry on demand.
No, I don't know if I really could, but it's just, yeah, seems to me the most appropriate response to a stupid question.
Yeah, basically just being like, yeah, no, I can't have any more kids because I had to be sterilized because, having a miscarriage, then a pregnancy that nearly killed me, my body can't handle it. So thank you so much for opening that old wound. That's basically my response. And I don't care that it's mean because, again, fuck you. You shouldn't be asking people that question. And maybe they'll fucking stop and think before opening their mouth to the next person. Because, I have actually made peace with the fact, I wanted more kids. I wanted at least 2 kids. I thought 2 was a good, solid number. I was going to hope for a boy and a girl, and I'd be done. However, now, and I was devastated, at being sterilized, which happened about 6 months after my son was born. But, fast forward 8 years, my son is on the autism spectrum. And it takes a lot of time and energy and investment in him. And I feel like if I had another child, it would be unfair to both because any attention I gave to, the other child, would take away attention that my son kind of needs. And, my son, if the other child was neurotypical and, because my son isn't, it would feel like I was playing favorites and I wasn't, giving equal attention, but they don't, my son being neurodivergent needs that more attention. So it all worked out for the best. And I know that my son, I would not want to split my attention to another child from him. I it wouldn't be fair to either child. So like I said, I've made peace with it. So the question doesn't actually hurt me, which is why I say I'm an asshole for making people feel bad for asking me that. But again, it's to try to teach them a lesson to not ask that question of women because it is a fucked up question to ask. Because I have friends that have had a dozen miscarriages. They have tried to have children and have had people rip open that fucking wound and cause immense trauma to them by asking, when are you going to have kids? Or why didn't you end up having kids? And it's like, TLDR, people suck.
Yeah.
That's the theme of the day.
Well, let me make you feel better. I have no children and I never will. You're welcome.
Honestly, that is a more moral decision than I made because, one, bringing a child into this world as such as it is, I can't say that it's necessarily the brightest and, best idea. And you can honestly say that you have prevented infinite harm because any harm that would befall your offspring, you prevented it. And as a man especially, you could have a lot of fucking little bastards running around out there. So just saying, you've prevented infinite harm. So you made the more moral decision than I did having children.
Oh,
Not
that
saying
reminds
having kids
me.
is bad. I'm not saying that. But I'm just,
That reminds me.
I mean, the species does have to perpetuate itself, but
not everybody needs to contribute to that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the species is doing okay. So not everybody needs to be a baby machine. There's a whole lot of us that can just kick back and leave it to the damn breeders.
Yeah, if we ever got to the point the population laid out in the Georgia Stonehenge, then maybe we would all need to be, shitting out kids. But,
Yeah.
That I think it said having a world population of less than 500 million or something like that. It's yeah, we'd all be needing to do our part if our numbers got that low.
Yeah.
But
I spent most of my adult life raising other people's kids, so didn't really see the need to add more to the mix.
Yeah. If ever I thought I was in the position to raise a kid, I would by far prefer to adopt.
There's so many kids that need it.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids that need it. I don't want to pollute the human gene pool with my DNA anyway, so the better way to go is to adopt, and I highly encourage anyone who can to adopt.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. That, well, none of my conditions are life-threatening, I've got enough just oddities that really don't need to be carried on in the next generation.
I do hope that, when my son gets a little bit older, like he'll catch up a little bit more and things will get a little bit easier and then I might be in a position to be able to adopt a child. Like I don't have to have another biological child. But again, like that's a judgment call I'd have to make based on circumstances at the time, financially, and my son would obviously always, take my priority.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Good point there, Seraphim. Uh, that is the shitty deal. Adoption is stupid hard in America, and reforms need to
Yeah.
be done to facilitate that. And I think there's some weird kind of stigma with that too. Uh, you know, people seem to prefer to have their own children than other people's children. That mentality needs to be suppressed.
Yeah, that has to be
A
to
child
realize.
is a child and needs a home and needs a family. It doesn't matter who their fucking parents are. It
And
matters to their
also,
doctor, what their medical history is. That's it.
Yeah.
in America, we have allowed a lot of abusive people to adopt children as well,
Yeah, that
and
too.
the safeguards of children have eroded away slowly in America. So yeah, if you're a good person, adopt. If you're
Well,
not, then go away.
and this is the other part of it that, people will adopt infants, but, just any kid over 5 years old, their chances of being adopted are not very good. And most of them wind up just being passed through the foster care system until they're 18 and thrown out on their own.
Yeah. Which, that's another thing. If I do end up adopting, I would be adopting an older child in the, like, preferably in the 5 to 10 year age group, still young enough to be able to establish a good solid bond. Because, like, once you get to be, like, close to, like, the teenage years, like, it's a little bit harder to bond, with a child because they're going to go through their whole rebellious phase and everything. And I want to have a solid foundation with that child before they hit that hormonal rebellious phase. But, like, all children deserve parents, but not all parents deserve children.
Yeah, well, I went through that with a couple of mine already being teenagers by the time I met their mother. And yeah, it's a bit difficult, but on the other hand, I really just had the advantage of that, their fathers had all abandoned them, so it was just any adult who was actually willing to sit down and listen to them for a few minutes. It wasn't that hard to form some bonds.
Yeah.
But any child I adopt, I would be taking in as my own.
Yep, love them just as much as your own children. I think the familial sentiment really should be extended to the species anyway.
I
we
would
should.
treat them no different than I would.
A very stable milking stool only if you're an aquatic mammal.
Oof, Jesus Christ, Seraphim. Like, that just makes me angry.
Speaking of other uncomfortable
I
questions,
said 5 to 10 stool.
speaking of other uncomfortable questions, there's one question I love to get when it's a new doctor, and that's, when is your last period? I started to answer in 1962.
They'll ask me that, even though I don't really get periods anymore after my ablation. And they'll be, is there any chance you could be pregnant? And I'm like, my fallopian tubes are completely occluded by scar tissue and fucking metal coils that were shoved in there that I can feel when I move at times, like digging into me.
Jesus Christ.
And also, my endometrial lining was burned off, so there's nowhere for the egg to implant. So yeah, like the chances are pretty good that I'm not pregnant. But yeah, the sterilization surgery I had, it was a procedure called Essure. And the company lied to the FDA, didn't do all of the safety trials they were supposed to, and were fudging the documents sent to them. So it got a black box warning about 6 or 8 months after I had it done, and then it got pulled from the market completely because it was causing people to have their fallopian tubes like rip open and shit, along with other complications. So
Jesus Christ. It sounds fucking like medieval torture, man.
yeah,
The sad thing is we're willing
Christ.
to do that to people because our country is ran by pharmaceutical companies. So they
Yeah.
put these drugs out, they put these tools out, they say, "Oh, it's crazy." It's insane.
yeah. But if you get a chance, like look into it. It's ESSURE. It was Escher. And yeah, it got pulled from the market. Like I have metal coils sitting in my fucking fallopian tubes right now, and yes, I can feel them.
Fuck that.
Not always. Not always. It's when I move like certain ways, like when I lean and like twist. Like I have to like move into certain positions, but sometimes you do that at night when you're trying to get comfortable. You're
Yeah.
hunkering down in bed, and then you're just like, oh fuck.
At least for me, the question about when my last period was does mean I'm passing pretty well.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
It's just. Oh, it's like the X-ray question. It's like, is there any chance you may get pregnant? Of course, I'm probably getting to the age where I'll stop being asked that one. But
And I didn't find out about the class action lawsuit until it ended, so that's fun. I wasn't able to be part of it.
God.
Female
Yeah.
clams can produce 100,000 to 1,000,000 eggs at a time.
I think
Wow.
that's an argument for not being a female clam.
To give you an idea, Bayer had to pay out $1.6 billion to settle the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit brought by women because of Escher.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the class action lawsuits, all they seem to do is make the lawyers rich.
Pretty much.
I was actually involved in a class action lawsuit against AT&T because of their cell phone practices.
Oh my.
And
So
in
was
the
I.
end, each of the people in the claimants, wound up getting proportional amounts. I wound up getting a gift card for $5 for AT&T. It's like I just sued them. Why would I want to get any of their services anyway? And it was such a piddly small amount, it wouldn't have even been worth bothering with.
Jesus.
But of course, the attorneys had managed to make several $1 million over the course of the case.
Well, of course,
God.
someone has to manage it, Lawyers have reinvented the ways to rip people off.
I had a job once doing billing support for AT&T. I got physically sick doing that job.
I was probably in the same lawsuit that Perp was. I just started noticing my signal was small to barely working certain times of the month. They would control the signal. And then they eventually confessed that they really were, giving us half the internet. Spectrum does it too.
Spectrum, though, like we switched to Spectrum from AT&T because we were promised, a certain speed with AT&T, and I mean, on some days, like most days, I was lucky to get like 40 down and like 1 to 2 up.
Same.
And that was a fraction of what it was supposed to be, and we switched to Spectrum, and now it's like it's in the 4 to 500 range for download, and I think the 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 upload. I haven't done a speed test in a while, but way better.
We've been having massive problems here. I don't even know who to blame anymore. With the weather, our infrastructure is ancient. There's a million people to blame.
Trump's a pretty good person to blame.
I will say though, in Spectrum's Putin blows mules. How's it going? But in Spectrum's not defense, I whined and I went full Karen, and they gave me $800, like an actual check, because they were ripping me off, and I caught them because I do my own finances.
Yeah, the thing I was involved with AT&T was actually an antitrust suit, because this was back in the early 90s, and they actually did determine that they were preventing some other companies from getting into the cell phone market.
Oh wow.
Speaking of national embarrassment, someone's bringing up Texas in the chat.
I was wondering when it was coming to that.
Yeah, Jinzu was saying about that. Colorado invests in sex education and has seen abortions, teen pregnancies, and STD transmission go down. What the fuck, Texas?
Well, they're too busy.
And that's a well-established pattern that the places that practice the abstinence-only sex ed have the highest rates of teen pregnancy.
Which also means the highest rate of teen abortions and STDs as well. But I still think, as bad as the Texas anti-abortion laws and sex ed stuff is, I think the new bills they're trying to pass here in Florida are worse. I mean, there's the anti-CRT Stop Woke Act, that anything that might make a white person feel uncomfortable is banned, essentially. But the worst one, I think, that could lead to actual harm to children is the Don't Say Gay bill, where not only will LGBT identities not be affirmed or spoken about, so a kid couldn't even say they have two moms if they do, but if a teacher hears a rumor that a child is trans or queer, they are supposed to out them to the parents, even if they suspect that it could lead to danger for the child.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, Texas also did.
That's because there's no hate like Christian love.
It's been all over
Yep.
I was just making sure that was you, Jenny. Hello.
Yeah, that's me.
There's some.
Okay.
There's something that's been all over my timeline from Governor Greg Abbott.
Ugh.
Yes, Governor Abbott took the position of the district attorney of Texas, who interprets passed recently, to basically say that if you're a parent with a trans kid, you are going to be arrested and charged with child abuse, thrown in jail, and your doctor is too. And the child is basically going to be put into a re-education camp and go through all the what do they call that? Conversion therapy.
Permanently.
Yeah.
They will permanently remove the child. Let's not forget they basically have given themselves the right to take a child away from a parent for a bullshit reason.
Now, one good thing that happened today with that is 5 local district attorneys in Texas said they will not enforce that. They just will not. They will not, because it's unconstitutional.
How can
It's so insane.
Yeah, but the problem, I've discussed this in other streams, that they pass laws that they know are unconstitutional, but they're still going to destroy, hundreds of families, because low-income people can't afford, they don't have the resources to take it to court to challenge it. So it's going to stay on the books for several years before anybody can challenge it, and then it'll be a couple more years going through the courts. So how many families are going to be destroyed in, the 5 to 10 years before the court finally, federal court finally rules that it's unconstitutional?
And it's worse than that with how the Supreme Court has been packed full of conservative Christians. Like, it might actually stand, even though it should be like an open and shut case, that it's blatantly unconstitutional.
What's gonna happen though is that we're gonna have polar opposite laws. Like in California, we literally have the opposite laws than in Texas. Everything that they're making illegal, we protect those people here.
I thought this wasn't so much a law as it was an executive order.
An executive order has the power of law. That's just part of the nature of an executive order. They don't hold administration to administration, but because each administration can end the previous executive orders, but they're if it's given especially to a state agency like Child Protective Services, they have to obey it. It's directly from
Okay,
the
Ankur
boss.
is asking, does anyone know if anyone's trying to take down the bill via the circumcision angle?
No, but I heard this argument yesterday.
What?
Well, I think what she means is the argument that circumcision is basically mutilating a child's genitals. So
There is no reason for most of the U.S. to be practicing circumcision. It all goes back to Kellogg, the cereal magnate, having some really weird ideas about masturbation.
yeah, it does not serve any real purpose.
And a lot of people not wanting to be considered Gentiles. Or their children to be considered Gentiles, sorry.
Well, personally, I think anybody who's checking for that, you should know them pretty well before they get to that point. And, no one apart from a doctor should be looking at a child that way.
This goes back to what I said earlier, that we have allowed the safeguards of children to erode away at every angle. Everything we've brought up tonight puts a child in danger, and it's crazy. It's crazy. How about leaving people alone?
Well, I don't know. That's pretty liberal.
I like minding my own effing business. That's what I do in my everyday life. I mind my own business, and I make crazy quilts. That's what I do. I don't know. It's insane to me how people are going after children. The same people are saying we're trying to protect children, but we're gonna completely uproot their life. Doesn't make sense to me.
We're going to protect children as long as we can make sure that they grow up to be evangelical Christians.
God, stay out of Texas.
Yeah.
Who Oh, I have nothing nice to say tonight. That's why I've been so quiet. I have nothing nice to say this evening about quite a few things.
Yeah, but fuck Texas, fuck Georgia, fuck the conservatives and their fucking insanity. They're just going fucking nuts. They're just going nuts with the fucking control and totalitarianism and fucking miseducation and science denial. It's just insane. They're just going nuts.
Well, and did you hear about the bill there that's going through in Oklahoma? That a school teacher can be arrested for teaching anything that makes any child in the classroom uncomfortable or opposes their religious views.
Why are we raising?
So you've got a room of 30 kids, and you can't say anything that will make any one of them uncomfortable, or you will lose your job and be arrested.
Listen, Oklahoma, take it from someone from the state that actually tried to legislate the value of pi. That bill quickly got buried here. We had Indiana tried to do that.
Yes, I remember that. That was like 2015 or something.
No. Which bill are you talking about? The pi bill was not 2015. But no, I mean, there was a recent similar bill trying to say it's like they wouldn't allow anything that would make a student feel uncomfortable or something like that. And it was a Republican bill, and the other Republicans in the Senate just quickly buried it.
Have these people never met a person of color before in their life?
Have you been to Indiana?
Talk about being uncomfortable at school. I went to a school with all white people. I was uncomfortable every day.
Yeah, well, and that's the point that's been brought up over and over is that,
Oh,
Again.
any child of color had to go through some uncomfortable things just learning any kind of history.
Coming back to your point about having never seen a person of color, have you ever been to Indiana?
yes, I have. I've been to Gary, Indiana, and I saw a lot of people of color.
Gary doesn't count. Gary's too close to Chicago. Go to like a farm somewhere out.
Yeah,
Okay,
Gary,
South
Indiana
Bend.
is just a suburb of Chicago.
I know someone from.
What I don't
Gary.
understand is why these conservatives don't like realize that no trans child is having their genitals mutilated. Like no respectable doctor is going to actually do surgery
Because
on
that would
a
require them
minor.
getting actual information instead of just listening to the Republican politicians.
Exactly.
At
Or
most, it's puberty blockers until they're a bit older.
But Kitty-
Until they reach 18, and then hormones.
I just have to, Kitty, I know absolutely that you did not mean this with the interpretation I'm about to give it, but some people may out there, and so I have to say something. No transgender surgery is mutilation.
Well, no, it was using the wording of the super chat.
Right, I know, and that's why I prefaced it that I know you don't intend it that way, but
Yeah,
I
no,
have
no.
to-
It's
I have to say that.
affirmation. It is fixing a. It is no different than saying you mutilated somebody if you do reconstructive surgery because half their face got fucking blown off or something like that. You are fixing a problem with the body to make it better, make it what it should be.
Which includes people who have limbs removed
absolutely.
due to dysphoria and things. It's an otherwise healthy body part, which is why that whole wording still needs to be looked at again, really.
Well, body. The
I
problem
was
is
just using their wording because, not that I would ever say it was a mutilation, but they're saying, oh, they're mutilating children. It's but children aren't having their genitals touched at all.
But
they're
let's
not
remember
getting
this.
surgery until they're adults.
Let's remember the source. We're talking about people in Texas who are talking to their preachers. They're getting this information from out in the weeds, out in nowhere.
Yeah.
They're not getting real information. They're this is all emotion. That has nothing to do with science. This has nothing to do with anything of common sense. This is gay people are bad. Bottom line.
Well, that's they're not getting proper information. The best information they're getting is Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
So everything they're getting is severely slanted toward, oh, the Republicans are perfect and going to save our country.
And the new turf rhetoric is, if anyone watches Posey Parker, she's going after the entire umbrella. Now it was started off at bathrooms. Now it's, well, the whole LGBTQIA plus community is blah, 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 blah. That is the end game, is to get rid of everybody.
I think Texas would be much more chill if it was getting information from out in the weed.
Now they need to smoke weed.
Every day.
Again, these are not rational people that we're dealing with in any way, shape, or form.
well, we need some irrational people start going after some of these cranks.
They live in.
I can't say it any more differently than that.
And honestly, I would go the other way. It's if you have a trans child and their family isn't affirming, then I would say step in and take the child away and put the child, in a foster family that is affirming and loving, so they don't
I
end up
think
tormented or on the streets.
For any LGBT child, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone in the alphabet mafia, the highest, the LGBTQ children are literally the number one, in homeless, and the highest of those would be trans children, and it's just sad that it goes back to what I said before. All children deserve parents, but not all parents deserve children.
What it comes down to, I feel, is the Bible has twisted people to thinking that they own their children. Because God owns them, they own their children. But no human owns another human. We are custodians of our children, and that's it. You know, they are their own person.
Yeah.
The parents would say, "Oh, you, I demand respect from you because I fed you, I housed you, I clothed you." It's like, bitch, that was the bare minimum. Like, that was your responsibility.
We are facilitators of our children. We don't own
you
them.
agreed to that before I existed.
Yeah, exactly.
So don't fucking throw that back at me.
I like to
garner you respect. You get respect when you earn it through your actions.
Crappy times, huh?
I'm just wondering how they're going to enforce it. That's got to be a huge enforcement burden.
And this is the party of small government. Yet they want to be in every fucking classroom, every fucking home.
Well, you know, like the Texas abortion thing, that, you know, they're not even going to have law enforcement have to deal with it. They're just going to let any private citizen bring up a suit.
Yeah, they delegated because they knew that they couldn't enforce it otherwise. Like, that was their way of saying, "Oh, you know, we're getting around this," you know?
Yep.
And no, you're not.
Wait, didn't the Supreme Court send that one back? I know they initially failed to rule on it, then I don't know.
No, the Texas abortion bill, the Supreme Court just said that, you know, somebody wanted them to put an injunction against it, and they just said, no, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to see how this plays out.
And it's a civil penalty, which is worse.
And then you have, like, that one woman who she had a miscarriage, and because she tested positive for drugs, they locked her up in prison for basically, essentially killing her child, even though the autopsy done on the miscarried remains was inconclusive. They're like, we have no idea if drugs played any part in this, but there is a woman sitting right now in a prison cell for having a miscarriage because she happened to have drugs in her system.
Was this in Indiana?
No, I think it was Oklahoma. It might have been Texas. Don't quote me on that. It was one of the red states.
Fuck Texas.
You know what's funny is that I'm really thinking about moving. I might just move to a different part of California because I was thinking about moving out of the state of California, but at least there's laws that protect me here.
Problem is,
in every way, you know. Sad. It's just sad time.
Brittany Pulo was convicted of manslaughter in Oklahoma and sentenced to 4 years in prison after suffering a miscarriage. And she's not the only one. But she was a poor Native American woman, so, you know, they tend to be targeted more by the law, which also is an issue that we should address in this country.
So the Indian woman in Indiana wasn't.
So I'd recently heard about a woman who gave birth to her child sitting on the toilet in the hospital because the hospital turned her away, and that child passed away. No one was
this in America?
Yeah, this was in the States, and it wasn't. But it was the beds were full of COVID. Blah blah blah. The chick's giving birth. She wasn't there with a fucking sore finger, like. But no one went to jail.
I have to look that up now because where I'm from, you cannot legally turn someone down. Like I have respiratory issues. If I walk into a hospital and say the words "I cannot breathe," I immediately get taken into the emergency room.
No hospital receiving federal funds is allowed to turn someone away for any services they may need, regardless of income or insurance.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up to see what.
Crazy.
What
that
they
would never
it was
happen.
Maybe they didn't believe she was giving. Oh, they said you're not giving birth. Like, come back tomorrow, sort of thing. And then she was like, out it came.
So you want to know the worst? Like, well, it's not necessarily the worst part, but like, just like the fucking like icing on the cake of a woman going to jail for 4 years for a miscarriage. She was convicted during Pregnancy Loss Awareness Month.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
Yeah.
irony is that
What is wrong with these people? What
I
the
see it
fuck
all.
is wrong
This
with
was
them?
Oklahoma. So, I mean, another red state.
This is why I sit in my house and make clothes and and watch true crime and old BBC shows.
This
And-
is all relates to the same basic urge that humans seem to have to control other people. This is just a whole bunch of goddamn fucking control freaks
Yes.
who think that they can
Yep.
run the world and other people's individual lives,
About shit that
and they
has
back it
no
with
effect on them.
religion and other bullshit. But that's what it comes down to: is people who think that they're control freaks.
This is why I
There's
always
nothing
say
worse than a control freak. Nothing.
And-
I agree. We digress.
Here's
We
the
have
thing,
digressed.
it gets worse. You know, Pulo's story is just the tip of the iceberg. Brittany's case really touched a nerve, but it's not as uncommon as people assumed it was. The organization, the National Advocates of Pregnant Women, has been tracking arrests and cases of forcible intervention against pregnant women in the U.S. From 1973 to 2020, the NAPW has recorded 1,600 such cases, with about 1,200 occurring in the last 15 years alone. So 400 happened from 1973 to 2005, and then from 2005 to 2020, 1,200.
Katie, forgive me. What are they going after? What?
Women having miscarriages, getting locked up for it.
So, can I,
That's just
can I
fucking
swear on this
crazy.
channel, Purple?
God damn it!
Someone just did.
Fuck yeah.
That is fucking crazy.
My question is, how do a bunch of old white fat cunts have any say over a woman's rights?
Because they live in low population areas and they get voted in and they make these wide
Yeah.
sweeping laws. Because you
And
couldn't do it here.
goes back to the biblical teachings that women are property.
You couldn't get away with that shit here.
So, and the article continues, you know,
Ugh.
the 1,200 in the last 15 years. And then, although some involved women who were arrested for things such as falling down or giving birth at home, the vast majority involved drugs, and women of color were overrepresented. The recent explosion of criminal cases is part of a uniquely American phenomenon at the crossroads of America's war on drugs and the personhood movement.
Yep.
I need
Why
to
can't we? Why can't we just go back to the way the Jewish people actually understood things, that the baby isn't alive until it takes its first breath?
Because that's Jewish. That's not evangelical.
But if they're going to use the Bible, they have to use the same justification.
Well,
No.
it's the same
We
hand-waving that
only have
allows
to go by the
them to-
parts of the Bible we like.
It's the same hand waving that allows them to wear mixed fabrics, work on the Sabbath, eat shellfish, and so on.
Well, and you know, the argument against gay marriage, that they want biblical marriage, just proves that they don't read the Bible, or I don't think any woman in this country would support marriage at all.
Hey,
Because biblical marriage was nothing more than a livestock exchange of the church recording that this woman no longer belongs to her father, she now belongs to her husband.
Don't forget if you are raped and you're betrothed, you're dead. They will kill you for being raped. And if you're
Yeah.
not betrothed to somebody, then your rapist has to pay your father and marry you and is not allowed to divorce you. So
Yeah.
yay, you get to be married to your rapist for the rest of your life.
And if you're raped and you didn't scream loud enough, you get killed, even if the guy was holding a gun to your head saying, make any noise and I'll kill you.
And that is a legitimate fucking argument that Christians make and say,
What the
but
fuck?
God cared for those women because at least they didn't get left, single. In that
Yeah,
society,
that
a
they were
single
damaged goods, so at least they didn't get
at
cast
least
off
she
on
gets
their
a
own.
husband.
God.
The man that raped her, that she has to now look at for the rest of her fucking life.
And bear the children of,
Thanks,
which
God.
would cause resentment of those children. I mean, not all women, there are some women, I could not carry my rapist child. I would absolutely get an abortion. like I would. However, I know people that, they're not telling other people they can't have abortions, but they would never do it themselves. So even in that situation, they would go through with the pregnancy and try to keep it, or, put it up for adoption or something like that. I wouldn't bring the child into the world. But, anyone that has, by whatever reason, been forced to, carry to term and then deliver their rapist baby, like that does psychological harm. It does damage. Whether you can get over it enough to raise the child or not, or like there's resentment there. I had a friend who, you know, um, they were a product of rape, and it fucking destroyed their mother. It did, and their mother ended up drinking herself to an early grave, because she just couldn't reconcile it. You know, she wanted to love her child, and in some ways, I think she did, but it was also like a constant reminder of her trauma. At least that's what we think. It's kind of hard to say. You can't really truly know the mind of another person, but there was a lot of damage done by that. And honestly, like, I I don't know, like my whole view on abortion, I'm actually a little bit more conservative than some of my, liberal, kin, in that I'm fine with what we have for Roe v. Wade, you know. Before viability, no questions asked. Anyone get an abortion for any reason, no reason needed. And then after viability, have some restrictions in place so that you can't just, because I know liberals that are like, no, if you want to abort the child the day before delivery, go for it. And now, if it were all or nothing, if it was that or outlawed abortion, I would go for that. But I take a more like down the middle approach on abortion of what we have, you know, in the liberal states, at least with Roe v. Wade. I think that's perfect because, fetal viability, I think, is a good cutoff to have a no questions asked approach. And then beyond that, there have to be certain, criteria met for that. And like people think that people want to have late term abortions. Like, no, it's incredibly traumatic. I have another friend, acquaintance really, because I was in a lot of mommy groups for a while, and she had to have a late term abortion. And it was because her child had hydrocephaly, meaning the child was not viable, like it would not have survived, like essentially did not have a full brain, and uh, the child would have suffered, like for a day or two, and then it was not viable. There was no way a healthy child would grow from that. And like she had picked out baby names, she had decorated the nursery, and like it fucking devastated her. And like people think that, all these people want to have late term abortions. Like the people that get abortions, like 99, well, maybe not 99, but like 90% of them are in like the first trimester, the first, like, and or the second, the beginning of the second trimester, like before, like before viability. Like, but the vast majority are done in the first trimester when it's literally a clump of cells where you can take a pill or you can get a DNC.
No, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. This
Venus
within the last week or so, the very heavily Catholic nation of Colombia just approved abortion up to 24 weeks.
The fact that they're going forward and we're going back says a lot about the state of
Good
this
for
country.
Colombia.
Yeah.
I think Australia just lowered its weeks. So we're going backwards. We could abort up to 26 weeks, which is, I think, the viability. Before 26 weeks, it's not really viable. But it's been dropped to like 16 weeks or something. Because we've had a big rise of conservatives in this country, which has never happened like this before.
Keep in mind that what most people want here is a wealthy elite who wants people stupid who can work in their factories for lower wages because they won't realize they're being exploited.
Exactly.
And we also have people who are being encouraged to go to school board meetings without realizing what they're talking about because they don't know what CRT is.
Sorry, unless you're in Harvard Law School, you're not going to be learning about CRT. Just because you're learning American history and it makes your feces hurt, I'm sorry. That's not CRT.
Uh,
It's just history.
I stood up in a board meeting, and after I heard everyone ranting, I stood up and looked at them, and I was like, these people are the reason why we need critical race theory. And half the room clapped, and the other, were taking down my license plate.
But
Yeah, but that's the problem, that they just don't want them to learn history at all.
unless
I
you're
don't- Oh, sorry,
unless
go
you're a
ahead.
higher level graduate or graduate student or higher level undergrad in certain majors, you're not being taught critical race theory.
And
You might
Critical
be-
race theory
those
is actually only
those majors
taught.
are not majors; they're law school. it's
Well,
not
Critical
from
race
law
theory
school.
is only taught in 7 law schools in the U.S. That's it. Nowhere
criminology and sociology will mention it at times.
Yeah,
I don't-
people
but-
are confusing it with a combination of civics and history. That's what.
Well, mostly that
the
they're
gen-
just claiming that all American history is critical race theory now.
But
Yeah.
also, saying I'm old school American. Like, I was raised by some sociopathic adults that were like, fuck your feelings. Get whatever job you have to get done, get it done. So I'm one of those people where I'm like, F your feelings. Leave people alone. If it's not hurting you, who cares what you think? I have opinions on everything. Doesn't mean anything, I don't know. I try not to judge people like that.
I
Like
kind
the
of want
main
to.
guy. Oh,
I
sorry.
kind of
go
want to
ahead.
touch on something happening in the side chat there. Kilroy, I think you should not be dismayed at being surprised and shocked by things. I think people should be more surprised and shocked by what's going on.
I am.
There's no problem being shocked. This is shocking stuff. If you're not being shocked, it means you're just rolling over and accepting this as normal.
If
Don't
you
So
don't
be
ask, you're not
surprised,
paying
be
attention.
shocked, be outraged.
Angry. Be
There
angry.
is some atrocious bullshit happening.
I think the not
Be
being shocked
angry.
or surprised is more about that we've come to expect this of the Republicans. It doesn't mean you're not outraged. It's just that, yeah, that kind of follows with the shit they've done so far.
Well, it's the apathy of the left, the historic apathy of the left that has allowed this to get to this point.
Yes.
If the people who feel counter to all of those insanities had been speaking their voice and casting their votes, getting their ass off the goddamn couch and going and actually voting, even if it's raining outside, we wouldn't have this issue right now.
I
Because
know.
the liberals are a vast majority of this country.
Exactly. Democrats are the majority, and they lose elections just because they don't show up to vote.
I vote in every election. I research judges, and I always say this to reemphasize to people: research the judges in your town because you may be in front of that person one day. So you better make sure they align with your beliefs, so they don't put you in jail over a traffic ticket.
I live in a country
Oh.
of apatheists, and can I say to Kilroy, it's one of the most frustrating things you can possibly imagine. Nobody gives a shit, and so the people in charge get to do whatever the fuck they like, and nobody says anything. And the few of us that care, it's killing us with stress and frustration. Watching, like yourselves, a developed country, we're going back to the dark ages.
Yes, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't
We're
get it.
fucking shuffling our way towards Gilead. Yay.
Like, it's surreal. It's almost surreal, and you should keep it surreal. Never be comfortable with it.
But is Gilead better than the fallout we were headed to under Trump?
I mean, I would
that's
say I'd
what-
rather the fallout. Just saying, like, at least then I don't have government bureaucracy dictating my ovaries and, ritualistic rape
In
sanction.
your genitals.
this would have happened even if Trump was still here. The only difference is that our country wouldn't have reacted at all. Trump would have helped him invade.
And we may still be getting towards that Fallout Mad Max universe.
He's still helping him invade.
Here's the deal.
Oh, don't even get
right?
me started on those traitors. They should
I'm
all be
starting to
thrown
make
in the
my
ocean.
plans. No, I'm starting to make my plans in case we end up in a purge-like situation. Like if we end up in a Fallout-like situation, like I'm getting my ducks in a row. I'm getting, my escape plans and where we're gonna hole up with my family. Because like if the nukes go flying and we're not obliterated, like it's gonna get bad.
I'm ready.
So-
Did
I'm
anybody
ready.
see the ad that Madison Cawthorn, the Nazi of Nazis, put out today?
No.
He took a photograph of a woman who was severely bloodied and injured in the Ukraine war, and put it up as the main center to the tweet or the post or the ad, whatever it is, and said Biden caused this.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Nope,
No,
not
who
at all.
did
Not
this?
even a little bit. I
No,
wish I
I
was.
didn't see it, but it doesn't surprise me. It's like I was saying earlier that, the Republicans are supporting Putin just because
Yeah.
they're so desperate to see Biden fail
Okay,
And
that
you're
they
gonna
are
see
supporting
more
an
of
actual
this
communist dictator
hold
while
on.
they
So,
squawk about everything being communist.
so no one heard what Ben Shapiro said today?
No, what?
I can't. Ben Shapiro blamed trans people basically.
For
Shapiro-
Ukraine?
Don't miss. I'm trying not to misquote it because I read things and I like want to throw my phone. So I'm like dumb. I'm done. This is dumb. But he basically said that it's the gender like he said something about gender and I'm like, you're obsessed, bro. Get help. Like, and he lives around here. There's all kinds of beautiful trans
Hey,
women he
Ox,
can date.
Ox, could you look that up?
Who was it? Cuomo.
It was Ben
Well-
Shapiro. Ben
Oh,
Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro.
Let's be fair. Ben Shapiro is probably just mad because no trans woman will date him.
Oh man, I live. In...
I'd date him if he pays me enough.
That would make you a prostitute.
We all have a price.
I don't care.
I'd
Sex
date him
workers
if
are
he paid,
honorable.
I'd date him if he paid me enough.
Well, sex work is work, but
Oh man, we'd be so annoying with our nasally voices. Oh man, we'd be so annoying in the same room. Yikes.
Hey, Will, we could maybe propose to Ben a threesome.
but you can sing WAP with his wife.
Oh, he said it, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
So
Hey, Ox, see what you can
looking
do
at
about looking
his
up
last
the Ben
couple
Shapiro
of-
quote.
Was it a
Ben
tweet?
I read it on Twitter, but it might have been a video, or it might have been on Facebook. I don't even know anymore because I'm on so many different platforms.
Okay, Jenny, Ox missed who you were talking about the
Oh, here we are.
Ben,
This might be
Ben
it.
our Ox Ben Shapiro supposedly made a statement today that basically accused gender people or transgender people or something along those lines.
I've got
We're not
it.
sure.
I've got the tweet.
No, I
on,
think that
fucking
Ox
crazy.
was
Got the
actually
tweet.
going the
Here we
thing you
go.
said before that about
Okay.
the bloodied woman and this, causing the Ukraine.
So I got the Ben Shapiro tweet here. Russia
Okay.
and China are focused on expanding their spheres of influence via aggressive action. The West is focused on expanding its national debt and exploding the gender binary. Whatever
you.
advantages we have on an objective level are wildly undermined by our narcissistic idiocy.
He's obsessed. He blamed trans people for Russia invading another country today.
My
Well,
tongue
we
did not
we
even wanna
attract
get
hurricanes
through
too. That's what we do.
Man, if I wish I had that power. I'd be at the ocean right now. Are you kidding me?
You know,
God.
not a single
Thank you,
hurricane.
Kitty.
Oh,
Not a single hurricane has come here since I moved here.
Like, you're welcome, but like also, god damn it, I had to read that.
so when I saw
Like,
that this
ugh,
morning, I
those
was
words had
like
to come out
done.
of my mouth.
I like right now on the screen next to my computer is Mario 64 because I've been playing it all day because I've been ignoring the internet because the idiocy is just on fire today.
I've literally been scouting out farms
Oh.
in the area that
What?
are not occupied, so that if we do end up in a purge situation, I'm going to get me and mine, and we're going to go hunker down on like, I don't care if I'm stealing it from somebody, you know, like I'm not gonna go like kill anybody for it, but if we're in like a purge situation, like a fallout situation, I want a place that I got enough space for my people where I can like grow food and shit. So
Yeah, it's crazy
Porpoise,
times.
I wanted to ask you a trans question. Is that all right?
Only if I can preface it by saying Ben Shapiro is both educated and an idiot.
no argument.
You can say that, sure. Are you out in your life or 24/7 kind of stuff?
Mostly, I mean, I don't volunteer the
I
information.
was just wondering what kind of shit you're getting in the work setting. I'm retired, so I'm not in work in current day America, so I don't know what trans people are putting up with at work and stuff. So I'm just curious.
Right now, I'm a college student, and I'll talk about the other thing offline.
Oh, okay, all right,
Because
that's fine.
That has more to do with the type of environment it is and the type of people I'm working with who probably don't know any better.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, you know, and it is magnanimous of you that you'll make that distinction between the haters and the people who just don't know any better.
I actually had like to school my mother, and like she actually had an aha moment because like my mom's not like bigoted towards like you know, trans people, but my niece had mentioned that one of her friends at school is non-binary and uses they them pronouns, and my mom started with the I just don't get it, you know, like what happened, like there were two, like I don't get it. And I was like, look, mom, you don't have to understand it to not be an asshole. Like, I mean, my son's name is Richard. If he told somebody I don't want to be called Dick, and you call him Dick, you're an asshole. So it's like, even if you don't understand it, like if someone says, hey, this is what I use, just use those. Like, just don't be a dick. It's literally the same as respecting someone's nickname. I mean, it's more than that, obviously, but like I'm trying to keep it simple for her in a way that she can like digest it. And she really did have like that aha moment of I kind of get it, you know, like, yeah, I can see how, you know, if someone, you know, like if, you know, someone's calling someone something they don't like it's rude, you know, so it's like, be polite and don't be an asshole.
And speaking of Ben Shapiro, actually,
oh god,
one of the sorry, but you have to call out this bullshit. One of the things that he says is actually it's not Ben Shapiro. It's an older guy like him that's also on TikTok and has short videos all the time. But anyway, he says, you don't get to choose your adjectives. Like, I can't say I identify as handsome and intelligent. And I thought about that, and for half a second, my primitive brain was like, oh, he's right. And then I thought, no, you know what? If it was an issue to you and you said to me, like, can you please refer to me as that? I'd fucking do it.
I would too.
To be an asshole.
Yeah.
That's Matt Walsh's line, by the way.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh says that
Matt
all the time in his
Walsh,
appearances.
Yep. That's
So-
the one.
like, does he realize that he just told on himself that he's not handsome or intelligent?
So I
It's
think
like Ben Shapiro telling on
Didn't
himself that he's
think
never
about
made his wife wet. He's never made her wet. Like
Oh, that was
when he was
awful.
doing the whole walk thing. So like these conservative men, they
sounds
tell on
very-
themselves all the time.
And Robert X, no, that's not correct. I was 32.
Yeah.
But now,
that's
like,
good.
I don't understand. Like, so like, dude doesn't honestly believe he's intelligent or handsome because he's saying, well, we can't just say we're this. You know, I can't say I'm this. It's like,
So I don't understand. Matt Walsh works for Ben Shapiro, They are obsessed with LGBTQIA plus people. And I know this is an ancient argument and it's an old one, but hey, the water's fine. We have cookies on the dark side. I'm not that mean. I only look mean. We're nice. I think they're gay. Or they're curious or bi or they're,
I'm not one. I'm not
Sorry.
one to say now. Here's the thing: when it comes to anyone who uses super straight or people that super hyperfixate, I'm not gonna paint with a broad brush and say they're all like self-loathing and closeted. But in Ben Shapiro's case, he is so fixated on trans people, but especially trans women. I think he might be jealous of his sister. I'll just leave it at that.
Is his sister trans?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Abby Shapiro's not trans. She's a trad wife, but
she's insane.
she's
insane.
a successful woman. An
What
opera
is a
singer,
trad wife?
traditional wife. So
okay.
basically, pregnant, barefoot in the kitchen type.
Yeah, stays home, takes care of the house.
Stepford wife, isn't it?
Brain dead.
Yeah, Stepford wife. That would be another. That would be another thing for it. But basically, she has this whole she's got a YouTube channel now, and she's an accomplished opera singer, and she is talented. I'll give her that. But her ideas are completely fucking brain dead, and it's very creepy, Stepfordy. But she looks just like Ben Shapiro. Like if you put
that's
Ben Shapiro
sad.
in makeup and a wig, they look the same. It is fucking creepy.
It's
So
beyond
that's why I'm
creepy.
saying I honestly think that he is jealous of his sister Abby.
Hang on, Kat.
Well, to be fair-
Have you ever seen them in the same room?
No,
But
but
I've heard Ben
Indeed.
Shapiro's thing, and he's not as talented as her.
Ben Shapiro is much shorter.
Hey, I would like to spank myself for what I just said. When you're defining trad wife and said barefoot and pregnant, and I responded that she was that meant brain dead. That's just bullshit, and there's no bearing on whether somebody is brain dead or brain damaged because they've chosen to be a wife and mother at home. It's one of the most difficult jobs on the planet, and they all deserve every bit of respect that they could possibly get.
Absolutely.
I apologize for saying something so stupid.
Yeah, but
I
when
know
you
you
wear a
didn't mean
maggot-
it like that. I knew it was directed specifically at her, and I took it as more her takes are brain dead because I was basically saying, that
C64.
he has bad conservative takes,
Yeah, and I don't care if you want to stay home and raise kids, but if you say women must stay home and raise kids, then you're fucking brain dead.
See, I also realized that had I had that as an option, I would have done it. So
I stay at home and raise my kid.
But here's the thing. I don't care what you want to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. If you want to be a stripper, go for it. You want to be any type of sex worker, go for it. You want to be a stay-at-home PTA mom, go for it. Zero fucks given. Just, live your life and, do good.
The PTA is brutal. Strip
I
clubs
have
are
a question
amazing.
for Robert X. How would you feel about Lord and Mistress instead?
Oh, it's all situational, Jenny. It's all situational.
Jenny, before I head on out, I answered your question on the Twitter chat if you want to see it. And good night, everyone. Be excellent to each other.
Yep.
So long, and thanks for all the fish.
Rest well, friend.
Bye.
Good to see you.
I was working in a movie theater when that film came out. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yep.
Jenny, and I believe the feminine version of Lord is actually Lady. So it would be Lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trans. I can go either way.
I mean, me too. I'm bi, so there you go.
That's it. You trans just want the best.
Yeah, all the transes and the bises. We just want to
the
take over the
bises.
world.
That's why that's another reason why I've turned off the internet. The trolls in the past 3 days have just come out of the floor. They're like roaches.
I can't go on Twitter. I specifically I Googled, because I didn't want to go looking on Twitter for Ben Shapiro's tweet. I Googled for you guys, but I've not really paid attention to Twitter because the tankies fucking defending Putin in Russia, and it's like these people are, like the leftists that are doing it, like they're supposed to be somewhat in my camp. Like, yeah, we agree
Yeah.
on some things like Medicare for all, but like, sorry, you're fucking bootlicking Putin. No, thank you.
You know, it's
Yeah,
really funny.
honestly, knowing how everything was going to blow up online over the Ukraine, that I really have gone out of my way to avoid seeing the news today.
I almost didn't come online here to the show because I was just so burned from just all the crap coming out of Texas. It's getting overwhelming, and I never thought I would feel that way.
No, I agree with you with that and the war and everything else. It's just like, what the F is
Yeah,
next?
it's just, I love
What
that
F is
Seraphim.
next? You know? Crazy, crazy times.
I've missed
Yeah,
you.
and I
Hey,
can
can I offer a good news thing?
Sure.
I spread this out on our DMs and Twitter. Today, there was a monumental flight, the fourth flight of the experimental aircraft, the Strato Rock. Blah blah blah. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Anyways, the latest plane built by the Burt Rutan company people. It's a very large plane. It's two huge fuselages that are connected together with the kind of configuration like from a P-38, if you know what that is, the fork-tailed devil. And there's pilots only on one side of the thing, but the other fuselage balances and blah blah. That's technical crap. Anyways, the wingspan on this plane is 385 feet.
Yeah, I saw somebody put a picture of that. Maybe it was
Okay.
yours.
Now remember, a quarter of a mile is 128 feet. So this thing is like 100 feet short of a quarter mile wide. It's the biggest airplane ever built in terms of wingspan. There's other ways to measure how big it is, volume, and all this kind of stuff. But that's 3 times the distance that the Wright brothers flew on their first flight. Okay, that's smaller than a 747, or 747 is small compared to it. It actually uses 6 747 engines to fly, and it's an amazing craft. It's going to be designed to be a launch platform for getting things up into space, whether they're hypersonic test beds or actual missiles and satellites. But that's its purpose. And it flew today doing some basic testing, to get it going. But it was just beautiful. This huge fucking aircraft, just wow. It's just, if you're an airplane junkie, this was like wow, wow, wow. So that's all I had to say.
Well, if we're going to talk about wings, I did a pretty decent bat wing liner today. So I'm pretty happy with it.
Ooh.
So like when I look straight on, like I have like that perfect, even though I've got hooded eyes, I've got like that perfect like wing going on.
Oh yeah, I can see. It's kind of small, so it's hard to see. Oh yeah. Aw.
It looks like a little bat wing.
I'm jealous.
That is fucking awesome.
So, but that's how you get like a perfectly smooth line like this, because my eyes are pretty hooded. Which means like this upper flap of skin kind of covers my eyelid, so I don't have a lot of eyelid space. Like I actually have to go above my crease when doing eyeshadow. But
I was fighting with an angry cat, so I missed the entire tutorial. I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Now I'm curious.
So basically, normally when I do my eyeshadow, I have to go above my crease because of my hooded eyes. So I've got my liner, it looks great, but then you can actually see that it looks like a little bat wing.
Yeah, my problem is that I'm old, and so my skin is no longer very elastic. And anytime I try to draw a wing, the skin folds up under the pen or brush or whatever method I'm using, and I just can't do it.
The way that I do this is essentially I will do a thin line, and I will start from the outside to bring it in, because like that folds down this way, like towards my eyeball. So I'll get like a straight line going down, and then I'll tilt my eye down slightly, and then connect it straight across to the crease, and then go straight down. So then I fill in the little triangle up here, and then it's connected down to this line over here. But I love how it looks, like, because usually when you're looking at somebody, you're looking at them, straight on, and
it kind of became a fad recently over the last couple of years. The wings on eyeliner, and I think it's lovely. It really changes the shape of the eyes. It's really very mystical and lovely to look at. And I thought it was this new thing, and then I started noticing from pictures of women all the way back into the 40s and even earlier were using the same damn technique.
I was about to say
wings.
Hispanic women have been rocking wings since the 20s.
I was surprised, but also neat to see that we're recycling history that way.
So yeah, I'll have to do a little tutorial or something sometime soon, and I'll just put my makeup on and just record it while I do it.
Makeup is really fascinating. I mean, people have been using makeup, and I say people because it's men and women. Mm-hmm. Have been using makeup since the Egyptian days. It's thousands of years old. It happens in virtually every culture. It's not a thing that people do necessarily for sexual attraction. There's religious reasons. There's just general social status reasons.
Yeah.
I didn't like wearing makeup growing up because my mom tried to make me wear it to make me look more feminine. So I didn't know how to look up makeup. I had to look up on YouTube.
I learned YouTube tutorials.
Exactly. That's how I learned how to do. Oh, well, I don't wear makeup all that often because my skin's very oily, and it's kind of hard finding makeup that stays put.
Well, and anthropologically, it goes back, far further than the Egyptians. I mean, they have questions about if it may go back almost as far as the Neanderthals with face painting.
You don't need noodles. No.
Sarah, I would use a primer, like a mattifying primer. That might actually help you.
It does, but I haven't found one yet that doesn't make my that doesn't make my eyes break out, because last few ones I found started making my eyelashes fall out. And I'm like, I kind of need those, and I didn't even have it anywhere near my eyelashes. That's the sad part.
That's weird.
I have really sensitive allergies apparently when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I'd like to try that system they advertise on TV, the airbrushing technique.
Airbrushing gives you a flawless thing, but airbrushing kits are expensive, and it takes a while to actually be able to do it well, because there's a really solid technique to it. Now, granted, you go through a fraction of the amount of makeup because you really only need a few drops of the makeup to do a full face. And it's great for makeup artists that are doing bridal parties and stuff like that, because you can literally use the same airbrush on everybody, with just different colors, because you can, match their skin tone by mixing different foundations together and do them. And you don't have to worry about the hygiene issues because nothing's actually touching the skin. Mm-hmm. However, again, they are very expensive.
They're about $100.
A big learning curve.
The problem with the one on TV is that it's a subscription service. Mm-hmm. That if you buy it, you pay X number of dollars a month, and they send you shit every month. And there's no way I wear that much makeup that I would need a refill every month.
I don't even wear that much makeup.
Once a year.
I only wear makeup maybe 2 or 3 days a week. unless I have a bunch of streams, like, speaking of, I will be on Godless Granny's channel 2 times in the beginning of March, so look out for that. But and also on Atheist Edge, I believe. But yeah, like I wear makeup mostly on the days that I go out, and not like when I'm just going to the shop, because I can't be bothered to put on a full face of makeup for that. But like the days that I take my son to therapy, I do my makeup to kind of treat myself, because it's a long drive and it basically takes up my whole day, going up there and then getting him something to eat and spending some time with my family while we're up there, because they live near where his therapy place is, and it's over an hour away. So like my whole day is taken up, and it's Mondays and Thursdays. So like I do my makeup while my son's sitting in his speech therapy. It gives me an hour to kill, and I pull this together, in an hour or less. And,
Hey,
I
Perp,
like feeling pretty.
Perp, we should do a whole show on makeup sometime. Maybe with some live demos and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
If you
it's
do a
definitely
makeup show, I will show up with no makeup on, and I will spend the stream doing my makeup.
it's definitely a big part of for me that not comfortable presenting female in public yet, because I can't do the makeup and I don't have anyone who can teach me. Sloth Girl just doesn't wear makeup. She was just never into those kind of things.
Yeah, my thing that I had to learn to do makeup was I had to find people that had like a similar face shape to myself and similar like skin tone and stuff. And then I learned from them, because that way I would know kind of what worked for me and would work with my skin tone and everything. So that way I could, copy them as closely as possible.
I'm still learning. Like my
Yeah,
contouring has I still have a ways to go with my contouring. Like that, I used to never contour.
I've never
I
tried
never did
contouring. I'm
brows
scared
either.
to.
I mean, it's not that hard.
Well, don't
like,
be scared. Just get some makeup removing towels, like from Neutrogena. It takes it off in an
Don't
instant.
use those. Don't use those. Like
Why?
they're so rough on the skin. Like I can't use those, and I know quite a few people that it's not. Use micellar water and just like cotton pads. It ends up being quite a bit softer, especially if you soak the cotton pad, because those towels are never moist enough to not be kind of abrasive. And the micellar water, not only does it nourish your skin, but it takes the makeup off. Like my entire face of makeup will be taken off with one cotton pad soaked in some micellar water, and my skin will feel super soft and nourished and cool afterwards. So definitely.
Doc, how often do you do your makeup? Sorry, you were being quiet. I just had to get you.
Yeah, well, that's
Replace
one
all my
advantage
makeup
I have
with
with trying.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
One
you off.
advantage I have with trying is that, despite my age, my skin is still pretty good. So it's like 50 years of avoiding sunlight is finally paying off for something.
Yes. People in my family, at least on my mom's side, they're Italian, or Irish Italian, but my mom is pretty dark complected. Like she's got that Mediterranean, darker skin complexion. And she was a sun worshiper for years, and it has not been kind to her. And everyone in my family, pretty much goes out in the sun. My younger sister's not as much anymore, but they used to tan and everything like that. And I'd be the one in the shade wearing long sleeves in the dead of fucking Florida summer, sitting under an umbrella kind of thing. And they're like, what, are you afraid of the sun? What, are you a vampire? And it's well, yes, but also I'm not going for Miss Melanoma 2024, thank you. And I do not look like I'm 35. I don't. In fact, both of my younger sisters look older than me, or at least about the same age. My youngest sister looks like she is the same age as me. And in fact, when we got carded once for a rated R movie, even though she's 6 years younger, the teller thought she was the older sister, because she had asked, were we sisters? And the cashier was like, are you guys sisters? It's like, yeah. And then she turns to my 6-year younger sister. Are you the older sister? Oh man, if looks could kill. But then my other sister, the middle one, she's only a year younger than me, but she looks way older than me. And again, she was one of those sun worshipping types, whereas me, it was
Yep.
sunscreen and, covering up my skin when outside.
I unfortunately destroyed my skin from the ultraviolet rush that you get when you do welding. I didn't take it seriously enough and just spent too much time getting zapped by the bad type of UV that occurs with welding.
You didn't wear a full face mask?
Like, my hands are the part of my body that have gotten the most like UV, obviously, because while I wear a lotion with sunscreen in it, my makeup has sunscreen in it, like I keep the rest of me pretty much covered up as well. My hands are exposed. Also, the little like UV lights they use to cure the nail polish that I wear. So like my hands do get a bit of UV exposure, but like they still don't look, what, they don't look old,
Melanin. I'm actually 97 years old. Melanin.
So as a 37-year-old, so my hands should look old now, apparently.
Well, you know what I
Damn.
mean. Like, I'm just saying, like, even though this part gets like a lot more, UV radiation because I'm not wearing sunscreen on my hands every day and they're not covered up by a sweater every day. Now, granted, they're mostly covered because I do thumb hole sweaters. Really, like, this is the only part of my hand that goes in the dryer as well. But still, like, I don't know, like, sunscreen is the number one thing to keep your skin looking young. Like, prevention is key. And I do have a face routine, and I have started using retinols because I'm in my mid-30s. I'm closer to 40 than I am to 25. So I figure, start now, but I don't go crazy with it. Like, I wash my face in the morning, and I have a vitamin C serum that I use just because, like, I like how it makes my skin feel. It makes it feel a little bit healthier. And then I have a lotion with sunscreen in it, and that's pretty much it in the morning. And then at night, it really depends. Like, if my skin starts to break out a little bit, like maybe, stress, because, like, I get stress acne. So, like, if I'm stressed out or if I was, not as thorough with taking off my makeup or what have you, I might get, like, a little breakout or something. Then I've got a salicylic acid wash that I use. Otherwise, I just use my regular facial cleanser from CeraVe. And at night, I'll either use an exfoliating thing because my skin gets really, like, flaky, dry. Like, I have pretty dry skin. I mean, on my face it's combination, and the rest of my body it's really dry. So I will either use an exfoliating serum, which it's like a chemical exfoliator, or I'll use the retinol, and that's it. Along with just a nighttime lotion with like ceramides and hyaluronic acid, which is really good.
Do you like the CeraVe stuff then?
Oh, I love the CeraVe stuff. It is fucking fantastic. Like, not only is their salicylic acid the most gentle salicylic acid acne wash I've ever used. Anytime I use something with salicylic acid, it burns my face. Now, like, not like burns, like chemical burns, but it stings, it always. But it feels no different than using the gentlest of gentle cleansers. And it helps to, like, not only for acne, but also if you use salicylic acid 1 or 2 nights a week, and on the other nights use like a retinol serum, it will actually help kind of reduce the noticeability of your pores and kind of smooth out your skin a bit. So just a combination of, hyaluronic acid and which sounds scary, but it's really just it helps draw moisture into the skin where you need it. But yeah, no, CeraVe products, 10 out of 10, definitely recommend. I've tried a lot of different face washes over the years, and I use Garnier's micellar water for taking off my makeup, and then I'll wash my face with my CeraVe gentle like face cleanser. And then I'll use they have a CeraVe like it's like a tub of like a lotion that's got hyaluronic acid in it, and I have a CeraVe retinol serum as well. And then I have just a cheapo vitamin C serum because it doesn't matter. It's vitamin C. Like no fluff, no muss. I got it for like $6 at Target. So
Oh, see, for vitamin C, I just mix some. I take like a teaspoon of Tang and mix it with some mayonnaise and spread that on as a poultice.
no, please don't.
No.
Please don't do that. Please don't.
I was about to say something about just rubbing an orange
So-
over my face, but
Kilroy's avatar reminded me that I have this patch.
Oh my god.
oh, hold
Oh,
on,
that is awesome.
hold on, let me enlarge you there.
Well, I can't see there.
It says it's Six Sad World from Daria. I was obsessed with that show.
Nice.
How,
Cake Queen.
I was obsessed with that show when I was
Dude,
I'm a-
Daria with life goals.
I'm a Daria fan too. It's a great
Yeah,
show.
Daria was awesome.
I still watch it on YouTube.
10
Yeah,
times better than Beavis and Butthead, which it was spun off
Beavis and
from.
Butthead was so stupid. I hated that
yeah,
show.
I never watched Beavis and Butthead, and because of that, I didn't watch Daria when it came out. And
Okay,
I kind of stumbled across it again, like 7-8 years ago. And it's just, yeah, even though I was 50, I just found I identified with a teenager so much for that.
But Beavis and Butthead showed rare videos. So that was the one thing for a metalhead. Like, they would show videos
Yeah.
that they would never show on MTV. That was the one thing I liked about Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, I
I
like
just
the
wanted to
videos
say
that they showed.
welcome to Jeff, Godless
Hello.
Scummer.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff.
Goodbye.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
Hello, guys.
Mwah.
By the way, I'm going to say
See you
I
later.
love Beavis and Butthead.
Bye, Sammy.
Bye,
Oh,
Sammy.
take
Bye,
care,
Sammy.
Sam.
Yeah,
Bye,
hi,
Sam.
Sammy.
Bye, Kitty. Bye, Purple. Bye,
Bye.
Shooting Sucks. Joe Rogan's what?
Joe
TTM.
Rogan
And
is
Night
goop
Just
for
Gets
men.
Faster also.
Ugh.
And I will die on that hill. Joe Rogan is goop for men.
I literally say
Yes.
how's it going? I say how's it going because Beavis said that's how you talk to a girl. I loved Beavis and Butthead.
I thought it was because you were a Wendy Williams fan.
No, I can't stand her. She looks so scary. She looks like that scary ex-wife that'll be outside your house, all up in your business.
You hear she's retiring, eh?
Oh, she has mad health problems. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel bad talking shit about her because for everything she said about trans people in general, like she's unhealthy. I'm unhealthy. I know how it is to be dying, so I feel sorry for her.
Hey, you're zipping through these too fast there, perps.
Sorry.
I was obsessed with Beavis and Butthead, and in
Go
the
back one
movie,
for you.
he says, when you see a girl, you walk up to her and you say, "How's it going?" And that stupid line stuck with me. And 30 years later,
Like I
How you guys doing?
so the closest that I have, and like my skin's too fucking white, you're not gonna be able to see it, but I actually have a round scar right here on my arm. It's almost a perfect circle, and I got that in my friend's garage. They were all drinking, and I was sitting there. I had a cigarette in this hand, and I was drinking water.
You didn't have your hand in your pocket?
No, I didn't have my hand in my pocket.
Sorry.
But
Song.
I had a drink in like a solo cup, but it was non-alcoholic in this hand. And so I'm sitting there. I've got my arm out like this, while everyone's talking. And they decided they were going to take the acetylene cutting torch that was in that garage and cut a can of Mountain Dew. And so they cut it, and then they like were putting it on like the bits of Mountain Dew that were still in the bottom of the can, and like it was vaporizing. So then they're like, "Oh, let's huff this," and then he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna hold the bottom of the can up with these tongs that had no insulation on them," and they're like, "Let's try to melt it completely." And I'm just sitting there watching this stupid. And when the heat eventually transferred into the handles, he dropped it like that, and a piece of molten metal flew across the room. Like, I mean, granted, I was only like 2 or 3 feet away, but it landed on my arm and actually burned into my skin. And I dumped my drink on it, and I actually had to pull a piece of metal out of my arm. And I just fucking slapped some Neosporin and a bandage on it because, I wasn't going to fucking go to a doctor and explain how I got that because, one, I was underage and alcohol was involved. And two, I didn't want to admit at the time that I was around people that stupid.
I'd like to add two technical things. There's the chat's been coming up with things about welding. I was curious about this myself years ago, and so I did a lot of study on it. It turns out that the UV, the bad UV that you get out of welding occurs in the first few seconds, or within the first second of welding. And once you strike the spark, once you get the first spark going, that's when there's this big surge a huge surge of UV that blasts you. After that, it's a steady flow, but it's nowhere near how much you get when you first fire up and get that first spark.
Well,
And
yeah,
most people will get that
creating
spark
dark.
going before they put their hood down because you want to be able to see, what you're doing.
And two, you can't really melt aluminum. It does melt and turn into this lump, but then it goes right from melting to vaporize, and it just disappears.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
It fucking sucked when I had to pull it out of my arm though.
Yeah, that wouldn't be.
I've burnt myself. I've been electrocuted. I've done all kinds of spectacular stuff. I've lost count.
So like this arm, I've got that scar, and on this arm, I have a scar from a paring knife where my ex-husband got me.
Hey, that's
Ow.
another good show topic. We could just talk about all the injuries that we get in stupid accidents over the years.
See, most
Yeah.
of mine were from
Scar
when I was
me.
younger, and I just don't remember my childhood. So I'm like, I have this scar. I don't know what it came from. It's just there.
Ooh.
And then
Yeah,
I have a
Sarah,
scar
I
here.
can identify with that because there's from ages 5 to 14, I remember virtually nothing, but I've got a lot of scars.
Scars that you can't remember are so traumatic that your brain suppressed it.
Well,
Oh,
what
I
I
just don't
do
remember my entire
is that
childhood. So
what I do remember is that I largely survived my childhood by being better able to hide than my next brother up the line.
Oof.
my
I get
parents.
so scared of toddlers when they're walking around in the house and stuff, and there's shit like sharp corners on a coffee table or something like that. And, the way kids fall and all this shit, I just freaks the hell out of me. How bad they can get injured and scarred from that.
My ex-wife has a 3-year-old, and when she comes and picks up Isaiah, sometimes she brings her son, and I forget how much that my house is not for toddlers anymore. Because the same thing, he'll turn a corner, and I'm like, oh, I'm like walking around with him around my house, like, oh, this house used to be kid safe, but Isaiah's my size now.
yeah, Isaiah
We're
doesn't
men.
really need it to be kid safe anymore.
Yeah, we're men, I got car parts on the kitchen table.
I remember where every single one of my scars came from, with the exception of 2. And it's weird. Like, I have a theory, but my parents won't actually admit that my theory is correct. But basically, there's a scar right here on my thumb and a scar right here, and they actually line up when I put my hands in a position like this. And when I was when I was a toddler, we were still living in Massachusetts, and my great grandmother was living with us. But she started having a dementia thing, and she went after my mom with a knife, saying that she was basically trying to poison her, which obviously she wasn't, but dementia's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
And these scars are from before I can remember. And like they line up just so well, and they look like a knife cut, like a mild one, but a knife cut, especially when you imagine like a 3-year-old, having their hands together, like it would be even closer together than, it is on my adult thing. My theory is that my great grandmother did it because, like, it was the time she wielded the knife, like, she ended up going and being put in a nursing home after that because, like, it was bad. And these are the only scars that I can't remember. And I have this gut feeling that it's somehow connected to that,
Well, I do remember that the first time I ever needed stitches was from my eldest brother putting a can opener through my foot.
Oh, lovely.
I still have a scar from opening an Alpo dog can 30-something years ago. I'm missing a piece of my finger.
My middle sister gave me a scar above my lip. Remember those old metal Toll House cookie tins? Like the tall rectangular ones? We were cleaning our room and she got mad at me and she flung it across the room and hit me in the face with it and split open above my lip. So I've got a scar right here that when I'm not wearing makeup, it's a lot more noticeable. But I've got that one. Then I've got one on my chin from when I fell off a bike and split my jaw open, like, so bad. Like, so I fell off the bike and, like, I went over the front of it, landed on my hands and knees, and my fucking skull bounced from my chin, like, off of the concrete. And, like, I got up and, like, gravel and stuff. So I'm like, ow, fuck, that sucked, brush myself off, go put the bike away. It was my friend's bike. He didn't tell me that the brakes didn't work. It's something to tell somebody, when you ask them to ride your bike, your bike to their place to keep it safe. But so I grab the mail and I go and I look dead on in the mirror and I see like red here, like a scrape, and I'm like, oh, that's gonna leave a mark. So then I'm looking through the mail and then drip, 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 and I'm like, huh. So I go and I'm like, hey mom, can you take a look at this? And she's like, oh my god, you're gonna need stitches. And she throws me down on her bed. I'm like, oh, it can't be that. Oh, I can feel my bone. Okay. Like, because I could literally feel my jawbone through the hole in my chin.
Oh, that's so
And
weird.
How?
she took me to the hospital to get stitches, and I'm sitting, they put me in a wheelchair, and they want to do like head exercises, so they put me in a wheelchair. They didn't want me walking around, but they also wouldn't give me any gauze or paper towels or anything, so I'm just like bleeding on myself and on their floor. So like while I'm like waiting, I'm just like going around like doing donuts in the wheelchair, leaving like a trail of blood behind me, and I'm like, well, it's not my fault. You didn't give me anything to keep myself from bleeding on your fucking floor.
Sarah, I have a question.
What?
So you didn't go to like women weren't allowed to do welding wherever you live? And the reason I asked this, sorry.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue.
I got I have a certification for welding, and it was mainly women in my class.
They were. It's just my mom wouldn't let me do it. Like, I had to convince my mom to let me take the agriculture class, and whenever I did take it, turns out we didn't do anything because it was one of those classes that everyone took as like, an easy class, so they didn't really do anything. I was weird. I hoped we would learn how to do agriculture stuff, and we didn't. So I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mom wouldn't let me do it.
If you're out in the chat there and are currently looking for employment and you're not adverse to seeking out blue collar kind of stuff, go get a welding certificate. Welders are in huge demand for almost every industry out there, and they get paid astronomical money.
I'm not trying to do the
Technical Institute, and in a year or two you can get a welding certification, and there are always jobs for welders.
I think currently welders are typically getting $75 an hour.
I'm not trying to do the commercial, but getting that certification changed my life. Like,
Yeah,
and
if
I'll leave it there.
if I could go back and do it again, yeah, I definitely would have done that rather than the computer stuff I got at the Technical Institute.
And welding's a lot of fun. I love
Oh
welding.
heck yeah!
I'm not well. I'm supposed to get this heart defibrillator, and after I do that, I won't be allowed to weld anymore because of the
That
RF
sucks.
interference of the machines.
Yeah.
But it's just a blast.
That's gonna be maybe I should do welding tutorials on my channel too.
I think that's a.
Kilroy,
I think
Kilroy,
I think-
I think I'm falling in love with you.
What was that?
You're into all this technical stuff.
What was that?
I think this has almost been a bit of a general thing though over the sort of last 20 years or so. And you sort of generation that sort of when I was growing up, the thing to get into was computers or whatever. That seemed to be where the future was or whatever. Now it seems like it really, because there is a shortage of good tradesmen.
Mm-hmm.
Really, in some ways, you would have been better off, learning a trade.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best advice.
Tradesmen are getting six-figure salaries annually.
Yeah.
Do not discount it as a choice. You don't really want to spend your life sitting on your ass in an office. Being in the trades is a blast. It's a lot of fun. If you can put up with the sexist bullshit from a lot of stupid men. There's a lot of environments where you don't run into those people, and it's really a good thing to spend your life doing.
That unfortunately is not one of the things my work is willing to pay for.
No, because it wouldn't apply to your job.
That's the thing, though. They recently expanded to where they pay for a lot of different degrees. And I'm actually tempted to go into psychology because that's what I wanted to do when I was younger. But the reason I didn't is because my mom wanted me to go get something quick so I could go to work immediately and start paying her for raising me. So I wasn't able to go to a college or do something I wanted.
Oh, well, then do it. Do it, Sarah. I think you'd be good at that.
If I had to pay my parents back,
yeah,
I'd
like,
owe a few million. I know my parents a few million.
My mom decided it was like 500,000 or something like that is how much she wanted me to pay her, and that was for her giving me a discount.
Holy F!
But I didn't know that was not normal until I was working at my previous job in claims, and I was telling them my mom was coming to visit me. I was going to pay her back, and everyone's, oh, so you borrowed money from your mom? I'm like, no, I'm paying her back for raising me. And they're like, that's not normal.
Yeah, that's not how that works. Like, like paying for your basic necessities, that's what they signed up for when they had a kid.
Yeah, no one asked to be brought here.
Yeah, my stepfather told me I could forget about that after my mom passed away. He's like, I'm not going to make you continue paying us. That was your mom doing that. I didn't want to.
Well, at least he's not a douche canoe.
Yeah, I'm just stunned by that.
Yeah, I've never heard anything like that.
Yeah, there are people that do it. My mom's not the only one because I was, whenever I found it wasn't normal, I found like a support group online for people whose parents were doing that. And we were all talking about how weird it was and we thought it was normal. And everyone's like, yeah, that's not normal. Your parents are weird.
No, my parents actually, I would never say this to my mom's face, but she goes out of her way to help her family. Like if somebody's down and out, she would help someone out. Like she would go out of her way. Even people she doesn't like. And I'm vindictive. So if I don't like you, I'm not going to help you.
My mom changed to where she actually got better when she switched churches. And I hate saying that, but she went to a non-denominational church from the Southern Baptist. And they actually convinced her to, stop doing that and actually talk to me and stop telling me I'm going to hell all the time.
I will say, generally speaking, when you leave a Southern Baptist church, that is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're going into something really flipping insane, like like the NIFB or something. But generally, leaving the Southern Baptist is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, unless you're leaving the Southern Baptist to go to like NIFB.
Yeah.
Okay, so my dad was like that too. He was really smart. My mom was the one who would do anything. My dad, when I was a kid, if I'd ask him for $5, he'd say, okay, but you owe me $7. And as an adult, I would be like, hey, I need bail money. He'd be like, okay, but you're going to pay me double of what this was. And after a while, I stopped asking him for money because he would tax me. He was trying to teach me a lesson, but my dad was big on
Well, I
like,
think it's a bit. So I suppose it's a little different if you've fucked up or something, isn't it? And they've helped you out, and they're like going to teach you a little life lesson here about not fucking up in the future.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. When he died, I understood half the lessons he was trying to teach me, because it was just basically like, if you have money, don't go buy a Ferrari just because you can, save for the future. Or, at any moment, like, World War III could break out and I could lose my house in 10 seconds. I live on the West Coast. Like, let's be real, so I could lose everything I've ever worked for. So be prepared, is what my dad taught me.
That's
You're going
well,
to face of Kim Jong Il. He's going to nail you first.
No, Seattle, because they're closer.
I don't think they North Korea has not got the fucking capabilities at
I'm
the
more
moment.
worried about
China is another matter.
Exactly. I'm more worried about China right now, thinking it's a good time to start World War III. But you know what? That's like me sitting at home being a soccer mom.
I mean, everyone is paying attention to Russia right now, so why the fuck not?
Well, I'm actually. I was to say, I was very proud of the achievement I managed to accomplish yesterday. I managed to get blocked on Twitter by George Galloway. I was very happy about that.
Hey, Kilroy brings up a point. I spent the last year and a half of my dad's life moved in with him, taking care of him because of his dementia and things that finally killed him. I didn't have to do it. None of my brothers offered to help, but I felt that I wanted to, because I've always been somebody all my life that helps other people addictively. But he was my father. I felt obligated to. It wasn't for financial reason that you raised me and I got to pay you back, but it was a moral, ethical kind of thing that you did take care of me, and you did stay up all night and while I was puking my brains out, and all that kind of parental stuff. And I didn't think I was his slave. I felt it was just my responsibility to do it, and I wish that I had kids, and that they would feel that way as well. I don't have any, so we'll never find out. But
you know what? My dad was an a-hole in a lot of ways, but he gave me a business and taught me like how to survive in a lot of ways. So I'm not mad about it.
I feel like if you do a good job raising your kids, they'll want to be a part of your life, not because you guilt them into it, and not because you demand it or they feel obligated, but because they want to.
But also though, like my parents, again, I would never say it to their face, but I had good examples, because they have, my entire life, they always helped people who were down and out. So
yeah,
I don't know.
You have really
unfortunately
special
for
parents,
me,
though.
it's like
Well,
I raised
got lucky.
I raised 9 kids through the course of 3 relationships, and unfortunately, with each of the breakups, their mothers felt that they needed to demonize me to the teenagers, and since they still had to live with their mother, they kind of just had to go along with it. So there's only 2 of them I ever hear from anymore.
That's sad.
That's always rough.
That sucks.
That's why in my adult life, I try not to necessarily jump into relationships, because your kid gets involved,
Uh-huh.
So the older I get, like, people can't just move in my house. You can't just move in my house when I meet you, Saves a lot of BS too.
Yeah. I know my mother was rather hoping that I would stay there for her final years, and but just that town was not someplace I could live, and I just couldn't be me up there.
I really miss my parents.
Well, not that there was a real issue with that. I'm the youngest of 9, so it's one of my sisters is living up there with her now anyway.
My dad was literally the guy from A Boy Named Sue. He's a good guy.
It would be
How's
better if your dad was named Sue.
Could you explain that to us, Susan?
I just love that damn song. I love that part where he gets in a fight with his dad. His dad cuts off a piece of his ear, and then they're rolling in the mud, and they start laughing and crying, and his dad tells him, like, you're here because of me, so you're welcome.
So what's everybody's plans for if things go to shit and we end up in, the Fallout universe?
Oh, you can join my militia.
There ain't no plan. There's no plan because there's no hope there's no hope left for our species if that happens.
There's not going to be a safe zone.
No, I want to become a warlord. I have a lot of, because of my hillbilly father, I'm well armed.
No, if the nukes start flying, the planet's gone. We're
Oh,
gone.
no,
Everybody's gone.
That's why I caution everyone to watch one of my favorite movies with Gregory Peck. It's called On the Beach. It illustrates what would really happen if World War III broke out with nukes. And Native Aviation is one of my favorite songs as well.
I've mentioned it before on here. There's a British TV movie from 1984 called Freds, which shows what was likely to happen in a nuclear war.
Ooh, I need something new to watch.
That thing is that is very hard hitting, and it really just shows that there is no hope. Freds is a bit like Britain watched the American TV movie The Day After and then said, "Hold my beer."
I love that movie. I love the original Day After. Day After Tomorrow was way commercial.
But Freds is harder hitting than The Day After, without a doubt.
And The Day After is scary too, because that's what would really happen. We would be.
But it's still the thing with I think the thing with The Day After, even at the end of it though, it still offers you that little bit of hope at the end. Freds just doesn't. It's just like, even if you survive, it's like even if you survive the initial war and fallout, you're fucked. It's still fucked,
Yeah, because eventually the radiation cloud is gonna.
Yeah.
Or you'd just be moving your entire life, avoiding this cloud, and eventually it's just gonna consume anything, anyways.
That sounds depressing as shit.
That's why I've
It
been
is.
playing
It
Nintendo
is.
64.
This is why This is why nuclear war was never ever allowed to happen.
Do you know what's ironic, Jeff? Do you know when China, America, and Russia, like within the past 3 weeks, they made a new pact not to nuke each other, and then Russia goes to war?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing is, I think Russia knows it. Russia knows it can get away with it. I don't honestly think. I mean, I love the fact that we got our government, the British government, trying to talk tough with Russia right now. It's like, you ain't gonna do shit about this. Come on.
Okay, Jeff, but I do laugh every time Boris goes up there and tries to get serious. I do laugh because he's so effed himself right now.
This is
He looks like a cartoon character.
Oh, Boris is looking for his like Winston Churchill moment right now to save his failing career because of all the shit that's come out about him.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, and it happens. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean the fact that I think people were a little bit pissed when they found out that he was throwing huge parties at 10 Downing Street whilst the country was in fucking lockdown for COVID, and people were getting arrested or whatever, and fines or whatever for breaking COVID regulations. And these fuckers who make the rules were openly breaking them.
Yes, and people were not seeing their mother pass away. They're not seeing their father. Yeah. They're missing key moments of people's lives. And Bojo's up there doing keggers and keg stands up there. He's a loser. He's a loser.
Well, and then they're treating the fact that they got caught lightly. Like it's it's just silly that we got caught. No, we don't really have to worry about it because we're the gods. They're just treating it so
That's
trite.
old school. Act like nothing happened. I hate that. That
Yeah,
like,
but the one that made
really
me laugh was this guy called Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's a Tory MP. He's I mean, his whole thing is, well, he more or less said in Parliament, he more or less said, well, if the Prime Minister broke the rules, then the rules must have been wrong in the first place. And I'm like, the fuck have you just said?
They sound like a bunch of teenagers.
But I have a rule because I'm from the suburbs. People who grew up with nannies should not be listened to. He didn't grow up in reality. He did not grow up. I have friends who had nannies. They don't understand what's going on in the world right now. He's so from a different planet. It's not even funny. I can't stand Jacob Rees-Mogg. I cannot stand him.
They're all the old Etonian clique, though, like you said, aren't they? People who are not grown up in reality whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
Well, I take a bit of an objection to that because I was also nanny to 2 kids while their mom worked.
Well, that's different to somebody who's so rich that they can't understand the plight of even the middle class.
Yeah,
I
know what you meant by it. Will, I think.
And
I know what you meant by it. I'm just a little defensive of the term because it's a role that I've had.
Understand?
So what about us in the South that called like our grandmother's nanny? Do we not need to be listened to as well, or is it like a different type of nanny?
Okay, to clarify, people
Mamaw was bigger in the South.
People who grew up with more money than the Pope, I will not listen to you. I grew up semi-middle class, and then my parents, eventually got their stuff together, and I'm the youngest, so you always benefit. The youngest always benefits because, usually the parents, well, back in the day, they got their shit together by the time they're in their 40s. Now America's just broke.
Yeah, don't say it's always the youngest because it kind of depends also how many. Since I was the youngest of 9, my parents had just had enough of raising kids and just gave up on it and kind of left me for the other kids to raise.
It also depends on if the oldest ones have like mental or neurodivergent, and the family has to focus on them. Because my brother, my family had to focus a lot on him, so a lot of stuff that was wrong with me never got diagnosed. Because as far as my family knew, I was completely normal compared to my brother.
Yeah, well, everyone always assumed somebody was watching me, so usually no one was. So they just didn't even notice me enough to realize that I had stuff that probably needed to be diagnosed.
A regular Kevin McAllister situation.
Perp, in our age group, none of that shit was ever diagnosed in anybody because there was no label for ADHD or for all.
Back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, back then you were just a bad kid, needed to have your butt whooped and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listed as being a classic underachiever, and they left it at that.
Hell, it was brought up to my parents that I might have ADHD when I was a kid, but they were like, nope, not my kid. So to this day, like, I still haven't gone to go get checked, but having spoken with other people that have been diagnosed, I'm like, yeah, that actually makes like sense. Like, wait, like you experience this weird thing that makes me an outlier to other people too, there
well,
was
even the dyslexia. It wasn't until my English teacher in my 3rd year of high school caught it because her son had it. So they never bothered to check me, despite the fact that one of my sisters had been diagnosed with it like 5 years ahead of me.
I am thankful that they never, They thought I had dyslexia, but I'm left-handed, so I was just writing letters backwards because I was copying the teacher exactly. But I'm actually thankful they never did consider me dyslexic, because my school, they would put you in special ed, and their idea of special ed education was, here, color! So they learned nothing.
Yeah, I've often wondered if I was supposed to be left-handed and got trained out of it, because my handwriting hasn't improved since the 4th grade.
I
But
was.
most tools I can use almost equally well with either hand now.
I was extremely left-handed, and as a child, all the way up to almost the 5th grade, it was like on my paperwork, like you need to teach him how to be right-handed, and now I'm right-handed. I'm ambidextrous, but let's be real, like I'm right-handed because we're trained monkeys, you know.
Yeah, they will try to train you to be right-handed, because I use most tools are for right-handed people anyway. So most tools I use right-handed, but there's a few things that I still do left-handed.
Yeah.
Or if I do them right-handed, it's awkward as hell, and people think I'm trying to hurt myself.
But I drive left-handed. Does anyone do that? Like, I drive with my left hand. There's a ton of stuff I do with my left hand.
Yeah. There are a lot of tools that, because of the grips or sights, they're extremely hard to use left-handed.
I find I'd have thought in American cars it was a necessity to drive. I was going to say, I would have thought in American cars it would have been a necessity to drive left-handed, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
In America, we don't call it left-hand driving; we call it driving.
You guys are the ones who do it. Especially if you're doing transmission, you've got to have your left hand on the steering wheel while you're shifting gears.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or smoking a cigarette back in the day.
Oh no! If I was smoking a cigarette, which is obviously different. Out the window, and I was driving with my right hand, but that was really either when I was in an automatic, or I would be smoking when I was on like the highway or something, where I wasn't in stop and go traffic, where I would need to be shifting gears.
Yeah.
I mean, it really throws. It really throws like most British drivers if they get in a car and like the steering wheel was on the left-hand side of the car, because. It's like everywhere, because we seem to want to do everything different to everyone else, so we drive on the left.
I think, Aunt Germ, my LA driving would scare you. I have this rig for the front seat in my camera. I'm gonna put it in the front seat of my car and drive on the freeway and show how scary it is in LA. Like, it's no joke here.
You'll just lose a bunch of subscribers just for terrifying them.
I can't say for certain if it's true, but one of the things I read about the reason that Americans drive on the right side was to put the driver toward the center so they could more easily see things coming on, but that they wanted the right hand for the shifter because they felt that you needed your stronger arm to shift in the old cars.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is,
or the fact that everybody on the planet drives in on the right side, except for Britain and let's see, what is it? Hong Kong, Australia, a few of your former colonies.
India.
Yeah, and it was just everybody from the Romans on, drove on the right side.
No, actually, it wasn't always that way in all countries. Like Sweden, it was like in the 1940s that they changed.
Well, that's Sweden. They're up there. The brains are frozen.
So, Mark,
you are speaking of my ancestors, but
I actually have a Jeep that, the steering wheel is on the wrong side, and it's awkward. I drive it around the ranch, and it's awkward.
You ought to try riding like some old British motorcycles from like the 1960s where the clutch was on the right hand side. That would really throw you off.
I'd crash.
Yeah, so I'm curious. That's one thing I could never. I'm thankfully, motorcycles in this country are not like that anymore, I suppose. But
people in the chat, if you're under say 30, 35. Well, I guess it really doesn't matter. 30, 35, whatever. How many of you cannot drive a stick?
I can't drive a stick because women don't drive them, and my mom won't let me be taught.
Whoa.
I learned to drive one in high school.
Yeah, I wanted to drive a stick because I was trying to get a vehicle, and the vehicle I wanted a Beetle, and all the Beetles they had on the lot were stick. And I'm like, well, my stepfather offered to teach me, and my mom was, well, women don't drive stick. That's a manly thing. I'm like, oh shit.
What?
So no stick for me.
Did they ever even make a Beetle with an automatic?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do.
Oh, I
yeah.
thought they were all manuals.
Because I was
They
like
had
trying to throw
initially
like
a thing that they called automatic stick shift. You had to shift it through the gears, but there was no clutch. But you still had to go through the gears.
So native atheists in my town, our speed limit on our roads is 55 miles an hour. We fly in LA. We drive fast, and that's just in our town.
I learned
Well,
to drive stick when I was 16. Like, my friend had a truck, and it was a manual transmission, and he was going to be replacing the transmission on the truck. So I was like, hey, will you teach me how to drive, stick shift? He's like, yeah, because even if you fuck it up, it doesn't matter. I'm fucking gonna be swapping this out anyway. So
oh, that's cool.
friend of mine got pulled over driving in France for speeding, because he didn't realise, like, because he saw the road sign and it said 110, like speed limit. He didn't realise that in Europe all the road signs are in kilometres, not miles per hour.
Yikes.
I learned how to drive stick in 1971. I was taught by Mary Orcutt in her MGB. How's that breaking a bunch of stereotypes?
I love telling this story. My dad drove me down to the local college and got out of the car, handed me the keys, and starts walking. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You'll figure it out, or I'll be home by the time you figure it out. Pick me up."
Wow.
And guess what? I figured it out, and I picked him up. He was damn near home, but I picked him up.
I would have driven right past him and let him finish walking.
He was old
remember
school.
how terrifying it was to have to hold a hill?
Oh
man, when you're first learning, being on hell, even when you know how to do it, like depending on the gradient of the hill, man.
Yeah.
Like doing that quick thing where you're easing off the brake and easing in the clutch and then hitting the gas, like you're just trying to get it like fucking. Oh,
yeah, actually, for me, it wasn't that long ago because my fiance's car had a stick shift. And in Syracuse, there are some seriously steep hills. There's especially one leaving downtown going into the university that, yeah, you had to be really quick on moving your foot over because, yeah, you could easily slide back several blocks. And especially doing that in the winter when your tires weren't necessarily getting any traction on the ice on the hill.
I had a 1983 VW Rabbit, and that thing was one of the reasons I moved out of LA, because there's nothing worse than being stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic in a stick shift.
Like, I literally would be fucking pressing the gas pedal before I let up off on the brake and go from the brake immediately over to the clutch. Boom. Like,
aren't they not good for like really hilly places either?
Sarah, as far as where do you live that causes vehicles to rust so quickly, that would be any northern state that uses salt on the roads.
Yeah, that's true.
Or if you live near the beach.
Yeah, like Florida, like cars get rusted pretty quickly.
I'm just being nosy. Sorry.
Here too.
Well, no, I know a lot about this, from my brother trying to keep old vehicles going and refurbishing things, and it's like, yeah, it was a prize if he could find parts off of a vehicle from the Southwest, from the desert states, because those ones were 20 years old and they still look new.
Whereas
but the problem with the southern cars is that they have so much sun it damages the interiors badly.
That does happen here.
That's true, yeah.
I don't miss that. I used to, before people, like all the flipping shows and everything, I used to buy cars and resell them. And I kind of, I miss it, but I don't miss it. Because now everybody knows what their car's worth. I bought
They're worth more now.
I bought a 69 Mustang for $700.
Oh, nice.
This was like 15 years ago.
What year was it?
It was in 1969.
Oh, okay. Good,
And
decent year.
oh yeah, I flipped it and sold it. I remember my dad was like, "You need to give," because I bought it off someone's grandma, and they're like, "You need to give him more money. That's just stealing."
I know, like, when I was first learning to drive stick, it was all on flat areas because, like, there's not a lot of, like, hills in Florida, but there are a few roads that actually do have a pretty steep incline, like, steep enough that in an automatic, if you take your foot off of the brake, you'll just stay still instead of inching forward. And that's enough to have you rolling backwards. Like, I admit, when I was first learning to drive on those, I employed the e-brake trick.
Yeah.
Pull the e-brake so you don't roll back as much, and get it going, and then drop the e-brake and go.
Yeah, Reg, this isn't just you. After 5 years of driving a stick shift, my biggest problem getting in an automatic was trying to figure out what to do with the other foot.
So, Jenny, when your starter dies, you could pop start your car. Is that in second gear? That's in second gear, right?
First gear, second gear, reverse, if you know what you're doing.
Okay, so a long time ago, I was in San Francisco, which is LGBTQIA plus heaven, and
it's also very hilly.
My starter died, and somebody was like, "Bro, you're in San Francisco, man. Your car's already pointing down," and they taught me how to pop start my car.
Yeah, and that's what we told people. You need to start. Well, I can't afford to park on a hill.
Yeah, I was panicking.
Yeah, I've done that. But I had a car that the starter had gone out, and it was just push it far enough so it starts heading down.
It was that crappy Rabbit. I missed that car because it was steel. I got in a car accident, and that thing saved my life twice because it was all steel. Good car.
Technically, you can start a car that's an automatic that way too, but you have to get it going like 60, 70 miles.
Yeah, I actually did do it once in an automatic, and that was just letting it roll down a long hill.
So that's what Isaiah and I will be doing tomorrow. That sounds like fun.
Oh, is he learning to drive?
Fucking hospital bill waiting to happen.
No,
hospital bills are expensive.
He knows how to drive because he grew up around golf carts.
Okay.
I miss my golf cart.
He grew up around the ranch, and like we use golf carts to go everywhere because there's pathways everywhere, like towards where the residents are, going more to the middle of nowhere. So
I want a golf cart so bad.
Yeah, he drives better than most adults. Tell you the honest truth, because he's responsible.
Fucking hell! If I win the lottery, like I've already said, I'm going to buy a piece of property here and get my family settled, but I'm also going to buy at least 2 more pieces of property. One likely in Texas, like, buy like an old ranch or something, because I might be able to convince my dad to move to Texas, and it is slowly turning blue. The other would be in Colorado, because the one in Colorado would actually be like my own little fallout bunker. Like I would have like a fucking underground tunnels, underground bunker, like hydroponics and everything. So like if shit ever hit the fan, or look
Colorado,
like
Colorado's one of those states where people are they're ready. There's probably bunkers already built.
The problem with having a prepper site is, how do you get to your bunker once you find out there's enough problem to go there?
Man, I've always wondered.
I would be going there now if I had it. Like shit's not there yet, but I'd be going there now. So like I said earlier, right now I'm keeping an eye out, like, and I'm looking through like listings for like, farm properties, like, out in the middle of nowhere around here that people have for sale. And I'm like, I'm squatting on that shit. Like I will set up base camp there, and protect me and mine. Because like if it ends up in a fallout situation, or we end up in like a purge situation because society has collapsed, then I want somewhere where I can grow food to feed me and mine.
I had always suspected that 98% of the preppers were just piece of shit role playing. And I think that was proved by the fact that we had an actual pandemic and none of them went to their bunkers.
I know someone that I grew up on the same block as I did, and they moved to Montana in 1999, and they still live there. They're a real life survivalist, and the funny thing is, he's on Facebook, and I always send him a message like, "World hasn't ended yet," oh, you idiot. But he moved away, eons ago because of Y2K, and how many
Well,
things have threatened our lives since?
I kind of like living out in the country in terms of survival, because I know I'm living in the what was that zone. That you hear something off in the distance, you go, what was that? And then the city nearby is gone.
Now, see, if it comes to it, though, I know that people are going to try to be leaving the cities, and I don't want to get caught in that traffic anyway. But if most of the people are leaving the cities, I'm perfectly satisfied to just, grab a house and board up the windows and just hunker down right there.
Well,
I had a whole
but
plan
that's
for
the thing. If there really is a nuclear war from this Ukraine thing, the world's gone within 30 to 45 minutes.
Yep.
Well, and if it comes down to a nuclear war, I actually did a lot of work on that in the 80s about how to build bomb shelters and that. And in the end, I came to the conclusion it would be possible to survive, but it wouldn't be worth it. So instead, I wanted to go out in the first blast.
I live where the first blast goes, so
Yeah,
I'd wake up and find out if all that shit is real or not.
When I lived in Minneapolis, my plan for the nuclear war was to go up to the observation deck on the IDS with a case of whiskey and a lawn chair, because the IDS tower is ground zero for a lot of Russian nukes.
I know that I'll be okay if there's a nuke war, because I learned how to duck and cover when I was in kindergarten.
I was about to say how long before American schools start showing duck and cover on the again.
Yep. When I was in school, they were still playing those movies to us.
Yeah.
I'll tell you
and cover. That's just a method that they use so they can keep all the bodies in nice, neat order.
I vaguely remember one of them had a turtle.
Yep, I specifically remember the one with the turtle, and I remember them saying that if you were caught outside, that you could lay down in the street with your head to the curb and cover yourself with newspaper.
Like, that's gonna do fuck all.
Oh yeah, that'll do so much.
Like, newspaper is going to protect you from nuclear blast.
That's be a crazy picture for the person who finds you. They're scavenging that city.
There is a certain amount of truth to that. They believe that, for example, people who work in file storage facilities of some sort, archival facilities, giant libraries and stuff like that, will have a better chance at survival than other people, because they will be surrounded by paper, which is one of the world's best insulators.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about, having reams, having like, several feet thick of paper is one thing, but not just a few sheets of newspaper.
No, that's pretty much just going to make your pile of dust bigger.
Yeah, I could see if you're in the center of the library where it's got to go through, several shelves full of books, that would provide some shielding.
What the thing I keep thinking about is that if it really happens, that I'm hoping that if I'm at ground zero, it really is as painless as I would think it is, because you just suddenly vaporize.
Yep.
If you're lucky enough to be in the primary blast zone.
Well, that's what I had, the conclusion I had come to, that, if you're right in the blast zone, it should be over in just a second, quicker than you'd be aware of it, which I thought was highly preferable to lingering around for several months dying of radiation sickness.
Yeah, no, if it was like a situation and where I knew like it's not happening, like I've got radiation sickness or something like that, where it's like everything is collapsed, we're in fallout thing, I'd probably just fucking nobody wants to think
and to be honest, how many of us are going to be screwed just if we can't get our medications refilled?
How
functional
without that.
Yeah, how functional could I be if they just said that whatever bottles I've got on my table is all I can get? That's it.
I have a really big truck, a 30-06, and a tow chain, and I live right by a pharmacy.
So we're gonna break into the pharmacy. Gotcha.
That's plan number 1 of
I
my
mean, to be fair, a lot of
contingency
people
plan.
would be going to break into pharmacies, but
I live within man, just don't be in my way. See,
I
that's
would
the
be
thing.
in a lot of hurting. Like I would be for a world of hurt if I couldn't get my medication.
That's the sad thing is that it would be if it I don't know. I don't even want to get into it because it would be like you would see the crappy end of the human spectrum.
So I haven't been able to get my insulin for like 2 weeks because of issues with my insurance, and I'd gotten so accustomed to my blood sugar being normalized. So now that it's back weird, I feel like shit. But finally, I got it. The issue with my insurance fixed, so I have a doctor's appointment next week to get it refilled, thankfully. But it's been a pain in the ass trying to get that stuff fixed.
Yeah.
I don't understand why somebody who's in a chronic situation like insulin dependency is that you don't have a prescription for life. That you should always be able to, carry a little card or have a bracelet that says, this is what you get, and that you just automatically get your insulin from the government by way of your pharmacy every month without fail. It's just stupid that you have to go see the doctor all the time for this
So
shit.
if Sarah lived in Canada or Mexico or anywhere that was not here, she would.
I'd also have
they would,
my lady bits taken out probably too, but I have polycystic ovarian, which was Katie was talking about earlier, and every doctor I go to, and I'm 37 now, and they still tell me this because I went to a doctor whenever I had my insurance working to try, because they're like, oh, everyone's like, oh, he'll do it. He's like, nope, not until you have 2 kids or have a husband sign off on it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like, well, I'm
but like I
pansexual,
say,
so that means I have to marry a dude? Well, shit.
Yeah. None of my conditions are life-threatening, but without any of my medications, just between fatigue and lack of sleep and, I wouldn't be functional enough to survive. I wouldn't be able to do the kind of work it would take just to get food every day.
Like, without my pain medication, I cannot function. I can't get out of bed. I just writhe in agony. Even if I didn't get hit with radiation sickness, like if I couldn't figure out either a way to like fucking manufacture something comparable or copious amounts of weed, and just be stoned off my ass like 24/7, like I would not be able to survive. Not that it would kill me, but that the pain, like the pain would drive me insane.
I can see how that would be the case. And there's a lot of people that have that if they lose their pain medication, they just would not be able to function.
Mark Caesar, there's here in California, there's people that go to Mexico for their medication. And when I lived in Oregon, people were going to Canada all the time for their medication.
I would if I could, but it's quite a bit of a drive from Georgia.
Here in Minnesota, right up till he died, one of the things that Paul Wellstone was really known for was he would charter buses for people to go to Canada and get their prescriptions filled.
Yep. It's not rare at all. Matter of fact, when I went on a cruise, a lot of people, we were all at the same pharmacy buying a bunch of drugs that we needed to stay alive, The one cool thing is that Border Patrol let us take all these right back into America. So they weren't too hard on us.
Well, on that happy note, I think I need to wrap up here.
Wait, you gotta wait 2.5 minutes.
Well, it'll take us longer than that to do the wrap up. So
was that the 3-minute warning go off like half a minute ago?
Well, okay. Who has anything that they want to shill?
Godless Sewing Channel. Don't kill each other. If we're still here, I'm gonna make videos about sewing and nothing political. Come on down, Godless Sewing Channel.
I think you need to mention the name of the channel again. I don't think they caught it.
It's my dirty ploy. Godless sewing, godless sewing.
Okay, and coming up on March 4th and 5th, we're going to be doing a charity auction for Diana, the Lavender Lady, which is, basically to have a fund set up so that when she can get her kidney transplant, that we can have somebody there to, help her. They're going to require somebody to be with her there for 8 weeks after her transplant.
Could you believe that bitch that got into our thread about that and started?
Yeah.
Can we not? Can we?
Wait, what happened?
Jenny, can we talk about that off air? Do you reckon?
Yeah, let's not.
I've got a
Yeah.
theory. I've got a theory about that, but yeah.
What happened?
I'm
talk
nosy
about it
too. I need to know about all this.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should. I think we should talk about that
Kilroy,
off air.
Kilroy, you're awesome.
Okay. Anyone else have any last words before I hit the button here?
I will be on Godless Granny's channel on, I think it is the 2nd and the 9th, but don't quote me on that. Check on Twitter. I'll mention something beforehand. And then I believe it's the 5th. I will be on with Atheist Edge. He's doing a Sherlock Holmes deductive reasoning thing again. Other than that, I usually make stuff on TikTok,
Yep.
but I haven't lately. I've been focused on getting some sewing stuff done. And some of the things that I have made are going to be in the auction. So
Awesome.
look out for that.
Yeah, Godless Granny usually does her live shows on Wednesday at 7 Central.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's the 2nd and the 9th.
I might be posting more art soon. Go me.
Yay, art.
Yay.
Yay.
And it's users or user? User. YouTube.com//user/the indigo llama, because llamas are awesome and so is the color indigo.
Fair.
Sounds like a club in Vegas. The Indigo Llama.
I mean, there might be strippers, but we.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Sounds like a strip club.
With that, I will bid you all a good night.
Well, now wait a minute. I didn't get to say nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, you didn't say you wanted to say anything.
Well, I'm courteous. I was going to wait to be called on, because that's what the teacher said. You raise your hand and you wait patiently, and then she'll call on
Jeannie,
you.
being all polite.
Okay, what do you have
Well,
to say?
I'm always
Jenny?
polite, aren't I?
Yes.
Kilroy, DM me. I just wanted to wish everybody good night and thank you, Chet, for being here, because you're why we do this, and we love you so very much.
And hopefully we don't get you.
And Putin, you can bite my ass, you motherfucker.
Kinky.
Okay, and I just need to thank my Patreon subscribers. Jyuni the Apostate, who actually is currently working on some new avatars for me. Ox and Robert X, who have been here in the side chat monitoring for me. Always appreciate that, and appreciate, all of you who bop the bots for me, because I sometimes have to be working in other windows to get everybody's links in the description and such.
I had a question for Ox and Robert X. Are you guys related? Do you have the same last name?
The Lavender Lady, Greg Hartwick, and Dog, appreciate all of you. So, appreciate all of you here, and I'll be back, next Wednesday at noon and Thursday at 10. I've been having a lot of problems with Thursday nights in the last month, but try to be better about that. So, bye-bye all.
Good night.
Yeah.